Chapter 752. See Yao Qiqing's eyes flashed with a hint of pain. She forced a smile. It's okay. I'm already very grateful that Mr. Yang could help me. I dare not ask for more. Miss Jiqing, don't say that. Because of Miss Jiqing's sincerity, kindness, and sincerity, I, Yang Chun, must bid for the ring and wine today. Not only for Grandpa, but more importantly, for Miss Jiqing. Yang Chun said affectionately. He did not forget to get close to see Yao Qiqing's pink lips. Although he did not kiss them, he was very close. He could smell the sweet fragrance of the beauty. Thank you so much, Mr. Yang. When we get back to the hotel, I will transfer the money to you immediately. See Yao Qiqing said as she bowed her head in gratitude. In fact, she was moving her red lips away from this bad guy's face. Yang Cheng patted his chest and said proudly, "It's just a little more than 10 million. In ancient times, there was a Yang Yuan's riding the red dust concubine smile. Today Yang Cheng's 10 million gold Jiqing smile will not be outdone." Ha! See Yao Qiqing's face was full of shyness. Her eyes were full of charm, but in her heart, she was nauseous. What kind of lousy poem is this? It doesn't even rhyme. If you don't know how to recite poems, don't show off. This fat pig is not only stupid, but also disgusting. With Yang Cheng's bragging and Si Yao Qiqing's false pandering, the auction began unknowingly. The first few items were neither low nor high. In fact, it was just a warm-up for the buyers. Most of them were sold for more than 100,000. When a bottle of wine was displayed, the auctioneer briefly introduced, "I believe that most of the ladies and gentlemen present are people who know wine. This bottle of wine is from 1945 from Chateau Morton. It is a 5-liter collector's edition. 1945 was one of the best years for wine in the 20th century. I believe that everyone can understand the value. The starting price is 110,000 US dollars. For things like wine, the older it is, the greater the risk of drinking it. Because many old wines, although seemingly unchanged, have long become a bottle of vinegar. Of course, as long as you don't open the seal, everything will be fine. Therefore, only those who truly loved ancient wine would be willing to pay a high price. If it was for the sake of drinking it, it would actually be a bit of a loss. After all, the older the wine, the better the taste." Very quickly, people in the venue began to call out bids. The bids went from 120,000 to 130,000 before they gradually stopped. Only then did Yang Cheng pick up the sign and say to Si Yao Qiqing, "Miss Jiqing, look, I'm going to make a bid for you." Si Yao Qiqing cursed in her heart. Her face was full of gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Yang." Yang Cheng raised his placard with a stupid expression on his face. "Hey, I offer you 150,000. Will you sell?" The people in the hall looked at them with disdain. If it wasn't for the fact that the occasion wasn't right, they wouldn't want to be associated with such a vulgar tone. Si Yao Qiqing also showed a look of embarrassment. In her heart, she scolded Yang Cheng for being a rich playboy. He had no manners at all. However, she also believed that he was an idiot. This price was far higher than the real value of the bottle of wine. Of course, no one competed with Yang Cheng. So immediately after 3 calls, the deal was made to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng winked at Si Yao Qiqing. Si Yao Qiqing finally smiled with some difficulty. She wanted to directly strangle Yang Cheng's neck on the spot. The auction continued. After a few smuggled antiques were auctioned, the other treasure that Si Yao Qiqing mentioned also appeared. The auctioneer pointed to the big pink diamond ring in the anti-theft transparent box and said, "This is our last auction item today. I believe it is also the reason why most people are here. This ring is made of a 5-carat pillow-shaped bright pink diamond. It is inlaid on a ring designed by the famous jewelry brand Graf. This rare pink diamond was mined in South Africa. Pink diamonds are different from other color diamonds. The color of pink diamonds is said to be formed when the diamond is exposed to huge heat and pressure during the movement of the Earth's crust. Therefore, the color is particularly charming and rare. The starting price is 11 million US dollars. Each bid must not be lower than 100,000. I bid 11. 1 million. 11. 2 million. Soon, a few female tycoons whose eyes began to shine and a few male tycoons who wanted to win the favor of the women began to compete to bid. For these real super tycoons who were worth billions, jewelry worth 11 million was actually not much of a challenge. This was because the value of jewelry would not depreciate if nothing unexpected happened. When the price reached 10 million US dollars, the crowd finally began to quiet down. The fat white female tycoon who made the super high bid spoke Russian. Obviously, she was a tycoon from Eastern Europe. She shouted until her neck turned red. Seeing that no one was bidding, her eyes were full of excitement. It was as if wearing that ring would return her to the prime of her youth at 18 years old. Hey, 13, 14 million. Yang Chun raised his card and spoke plainly without any intention of stopping. When the female tycoon heard this, she first glared at Yang Chun. But then, as if she had a cerebral thrombosis, she panted and fainted on the spot. In the panic, the bodyguards helped her out and sent her to the hospital. Only then did the auction finish the final procedure. This price was not particularly expensive for the tycoons. The key was that there was no shortage of good jewelry in the world. Also, if they took too much cash, it would affect their business. Therefore, no one competed with Yang Chun again. Yang Chun held Xiao Qiqing's soft waist with one hand and smiled affectionately. Miss Jiqing, this number contains a lifetime of love. Do you see it? Xiao Qiqing sneered in her heart. A lifetime? Isn't he just trying to play with me and get rid of me? But she still couldn't hide her emotions and gratitude. With tears in her eyes, she said, Mr. Yang Chun, you're so good to me. After we get the item, we'll go back to the hotel, and I'll transfer the money to you immediately. Sigh. Money is a small matter. There's no rush. But Jiqing, why don't you call me Brother Yang? It's more intimate. Of course, you can call me Brother Yang too. Yang Chun winked. Xiao Qiqing felt nauseous. She lowered her head and forced herself to say, Brother Yang. Yang Chun laughed heartily as he led the delicate beauty through the procedures. After swiping his card, he rejected the police and the bodyguard's offer to escort him home. With the pink diamond ring in one pocket and the bottle of wine worth more than $100,000 in one hand, his other hand was naturally wrapped around Xiao Qiqing's slender waist. From time to time, he would pinch the woman's soft flesh. Xiao Qiqing suppressed her strong disgust and followed Yang Chun out of the auction house. She asked, Brother Yang, where's your car? I took a taxi here because I'm not familiar with the roads here. Yang Chun pointed to the blue Porsche 911 GT in front of him. This is it. Get in. I'll take you to lunch. Lunch? Xiao Qiqing hurriedly shook her head. With a serious expression, she said sincerely, No, let's go back to the hotel immediately. I need to transfer the money to you before I can on-sheen. Is that so? Sigh. All right, I really don't care. For a beauty like Miss Jiqing, even 30 or 40 million is worth it. It's not something that can be measured with money. Of course, if Jiqing wants to go to the hotel, I'll be happy to. Yang Chun smiled obscenely at the end. Xiao Qiqing snorted coldly in her heart. You can be smug all you want. In a little while, you'll be finished. After getting into the car, Yang Chun asked for the name and approximate location of the hotel before driving there. It was a 5-star hotel on the west side of Beverly Hills. Although it was not big, it was known for its elegant decor and comprehensive service. The location was also quite secluded, belonging to the category of luxury hotel that was far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Along the way, Yang Chun did not forget to put his hand on Xiao Qiqing's thigh from time to time. Because the Porsche was in manual transmission, he had to stretch his hand out. Xiao Qiqing had no choice but to accept it, pretending that she was being rubbed by an animal. When they were about to reach the hotel, Xiao Qiqing stopped them. Brother Yang, don't drive to the hotel. It's troublesome to get in and out of the parking lot there. Just park on the street outside. Yang Cheng's face was full of admiration. Jiqing, you're so considerate. All right, I'll listen to you. The two got out of the car. There were not many people on the street. Yang Chun very naturally held Xiao Qiqing's hand and slowly walked in the direction of the hotel. Xiao Qiqing naturally led Yang Chun. After turning a corner, she pulled him and said that they were going to take a shortcut. They directly entered a 2-meter-wide alley between the residential houses. When they reached the middle of the alley, two bearded men wearing sunglasses and hats suddenly rushed out from the exit in front of them. They stood in front of Yang Cheng and Jiqing in a domineering manner. "Robbery! Hand over your money and valuables." One of the slightly older men, chewing gum, looked down at Yang Cheng condescendingly. Xiao Qiqing immediately showed a look of fear. She shrunk her body and slightly stepped back. Yang Cheng showed a trace of a frightened expression. He quickly dodged behind Xiao Qiqing and pushed Xiao Qiqing in front of him. He said with a trembling voice, "How can you rob in broad daylight?" "Ha! Asian monkey, is there a law that says you can only rob at night?" The big man's face was ferocious. He signaled to his accomplice behind him. The big man slowly took out a black pistol from his coat pocket. He seemed to be very bored as he wiped the dust off the gun. The meaning of threat was self-evident. Xiao Qiqing clearly felt that Yang Cheng was grabbing her skirt. He was shivering behind her. His face showed a trace of contempt. A good-for-nothing playboy. Even when he really got into trouble, he still behaved like this. This world was really not the way it used to be. Seeing that Yang Cheng kept hiding, the big man frowned and said, "Hey, buddy, how long are you going to hide? Do you think you could be saved by hiding behind a woman? Let me tell you, there's almost no one passing by here during the day. You better be tactful. Otherwise, my brother and I will make a move." Yang Cheng quickly raised his hand. Don't hit me. I'll give you money." That's more like it." The big man laughed. At the same time, he couldn't help but look at Xiao Qiqing with an excited expression. Xiao Qiqing's back was facing Yang Cheng. She nodded approvingly at the big man. On the other hand, Yang Cheng put on a pained expression. He sneaked out from behind Xiao Qiqing and took out the pink diamond ring from his pocket. He didn't have the face to look at Xiao Qiqing and said in a low voice, "Miss Xiao, I'm sorry. I have to protect you. This ring, I'll give it to them." Xiao Qiqing's expression was indifferent. She couldn't be bothered to continue her act. But at this moment, Xiao Qiqing seemed to have sensed something. She raised her head and exclaimed. She wanted to shout something, but she didn't have the time to do so. Thud! Thud! Two potted plants that had fallen from the balcony of a residential house landed right on top of the heads of the two Caucasian men. Soil and plants splattered all over the ground. The two men were still in the midst of their complacency. For some reason, they fainted on the ground. Even their eyes were open. Seeing this, Yang Chun took a step forward and stepped on the white man's body. He laughed and said, "Look at this. Look, Jiqing, the heavens must have been touched by my love for you. The heavens are helping me. It's obvious that the two of us are fated to meet each other. Such a good thing happened to us. I knew it. I'm such a brave and upright person. How can a good person like me not be rewarded?" Xiao Qiqing stood dumbfounded. She looked at the big man who had fainted on the ground. Then, she looked at the arrogant man who was intoxicated. She almost vomited blood on the spot. Chapter 753. Jiqing, what's wrong with you? Call the police. Yang Chun waved his hand at the beauty who was in a daze. Let the police arrest them, then call a few reporters from the TV station to interview and report. We can still go on TV as heroes. Maybe we can even get a bonus. Go on TV? Get a bonus? Xiao Qiqing was about to faint. Not only was this guy stupid, but he was also fantasizing about being a hero. He was already so rich, and he still wanted a bonus. Xiao Qiqing's mind raced. It seemed that this guy was really stupid. He couldn't even see through her plan. She might as well continue acting. She couldn't let him take advantage of her for nothing. She immediately walked forward and took the initiative to hold Yang Cheng's arm. She smiled sweetly and said, "Brother Yang, let it go. They're just small bandits. There's no need to call the police. Let people go wherever possible. Maybe they have relatives and children. Let them go this time." Yang Cheng was moved. He looked at the woman's pitiful expression. "Jiqing, you're too kind. I'll listen to you and let them go." As he spoke, Yang Chun kicked the thigh of the burly man on the ground with a proud look on his face. Xiao Qiqing despised him. If he hadn't fainted, he would have wet his pants. But she put on a gentle face and said, "Brother Yang, let's go back to the hotel. Don't worry about them. I'll transfer the money to you. Yes, yes, let's go back to the hotel. To your room. Yang Cheng smiled happily again. The two walked into the hotel together. Yang Cheng occasionally rubbed his arm against Xiao Qiqing's full chest. The soft and dense touch was very enjoyable for Yang Cheng. Xiao Qiqing didn't want anything to go wrong at the last minute. She had to suppress her hatred and let this guy take advantage of her. There weren't many people in the hotel during the day, and the price was set to be a niche, high-end hotel. They took the elevator all the way to the guest room on the 5th floor. It was so quiet that they could hear each other's breathing. At the door of the guest room, Xiao Qiqing looked at Yang Cheng with sparkling eyes. Due to the constant rubbing of the sensitive spot on her chest, the woman's face was pink like a rosy cloud, which was very attractive. Brother Yang, I want to get the room card. Go ahead. I'm waiting. Yang Cheng grinned. If you don't let go, it's hard for me to open the bag. Xiao Qiqing gestured at the orange leather bag hanging on her waist. It was hard to open the zipper with one hand. Yang Cheng had a look of realization. He reluctantly let go of the warm and soft arm that he had been holding tightly, allowing Xiao Qiqing to open the bag with both hands and search for the room card. Once the door was opened, the moment he stepped in, he smelled an orchid-like fragrance. Yang Cheng took a few deep breaths and clicked his tongue in an unsightly manner, as though it was delicious. Xiao Qiqing felt disgusted when she heard that voice. She tried her best not to look at the man's face. She lowered her head and walked to the study table in the room. She opened an Apple laptop and said gently, Brother Yang, I'll go online and transfer the money to your account now. The amount might be huge, and it might take some time. Do you want to drink something? Oh, anything is fine. There's no rush. Yang Cheng replied. Xiao Qiqing sneered in her heart, but she only put on a shy and reserved expression. She walked to the fridge and opened it. I'll get you some red wine. It's leftovers from last night. I hope you don't mind. Jiqing gave it to me. Even poison tastes good. Yang Cheng said seriously. Xiao Qiqing covered her mouth and chuckled. She looked at Yang Cheng shyly and pursed her lips. She took out 2 glasses and poured some from a half-empty bottle of red wine. As soon as she finished pouring the wine, Xiao Qiqing frowned slightly. She pulled at the clothes in front of her chest and said embarrassedly, Brother Yang, I'm sweating and I'm not feeling well. Why don't you rest first and drink some wine? I'll take a shower and then come out to transfer the money. Shower? Yang Cheng nodded in satisfaction and said with a mischievous smile, Of course, no problem. Why don't I shower with you? I'm sweating too. Xiao Qiqing pretended to be angry and pouted. Brother Yang, I won't talk to you anymore. All right, I won't shower. I won't shower. Yang Cheng waved his hand and gestured for Xiao Qiqing to go in. Xiao Qiqing walked to her suitcase and opened it. She took out her thin underwear and said affectionately, Brother Yang, you're not allowed to peek. Yang Cheng quickly put on a straight face. Jiqing, do I look like that kind of person? Big Brother Yang, value being a gentleman the most. I know Brother Yang is a good person. Xiao Qiqing's beautiful eyes were like a seductive fox. She smiled sweetly and jogged to the bathroom. Yang Cheng looked at the woman's swaying buttocks under her skirt and swallowed his saliva. Although he knew this woman didn't have good intentions, he was still intrigued. When Xiao Qiqing went to shower, Yang Cheng looked around the room with great interest. The room was decorated with light green artworks, simple but elegant beige bedding. The TV and the speakers on the bedside table were all advanced models. The floor was covered with thick blankets, and the bathroom was clean and tidy. It was indeed worthy of a 5-star hotel. Yang Cheng glanced at the red wine shui Jiqing asked him to drink. It was dry red in color and fragrant. He picked up the glass and chuckled. Without any hesitation, he gulped it down. After finishing 1 glass, the taste was really good. Yang Cheng also drank the glass of wine Xiao Qiqing gave him, poured himself a large glass, and put it on the bedside table. Then, Yang Cheng quickly took off his shirt and shorts, leaving only a pair of flowery boxer briefs, and sat down on the only large double bed in the room. Picking up the wine glass, Yang Cheng carefully tasted it for a while. Seeing that it was about time, he put the glass down and leaned on a few large white pillows, pretending to be sleepy. In a muffled voice, he said to Xiao Qi in the bathroom, Ji Qing, I'm a little sleepy. Hurry up. In the bathroom, Xiao Qi said in a clear voice, Hey, Brother Yang, I'm almost done. Gradually, the sound of the water quieted down. Through the frosted glass, he could see the soft silhouette of a beautiful snake, gently wiping her body in the bathroom. Just the width of the curve on the silhouette made Yang Cheng, who was squinting his eyes, feel that his little brother was spitting fire. He didn't know how old this woman was. She looked like a young girl in her early 20s, but her temperament and figure were very much like a mature woman in her 30s. It was really alluring. When the bathroom door opened, Xiao Qi was wearing a white blanket robe provided by the hotel. While drying her black hair, she walked barefooted to the bedside. Yang Cheng was lying on the bed like a dead pig, saliva still dripping from the corner of his mouth, forming a big character, and his legs were especially wide open. In this way, the tower between his legs was especially eye-catching. Xiao Qi face had long lost the gentle expression of a little girl from before. Her youthful and charming face was cold and calm. She glanced at Yang Cheng's body with some disdain. When she saw the towering pillar, she frowned, bit her lip, and muttered, This body looks quite strong, but it's as timid as a mouse. He's just a stupid piece of trash. Pervert, he's already unconscious, but that naughty thing still refuses to rest. As she spoke, Xiao Qi threw away the towel she used to dry her hair, walked to the suitcase, and took out a digital camera. She moved to the bed, stretched out her hand, and grabbed the only pair of boxer briefs on Yang Cheng's body, and shivered. It's not that I want to see your dirty thing, I just don't want you to harm good girls in the future. Today, I'm robbing the rich to help the poor, and I'm messing with stinky men like you who do whatever they want once they have money. This is called boundless virtue. After saying a lot of words, she finally convinced herself to overcome the shyness of a girl. Xiao Qi hand forcefully pulled. The big thing under Yang Cheng's crotch was finally exposed to the air, and it even swayed a few times arrogantly. The hot momentum made Xiao Qi face turn red, and her heart beat wildly. It's really bad. It's not honest, even when it's asleep. Xiao Qi thought bitterly. In order to get rid of this body, the girl turned on the camera, adjusted the angle, and started to take a 360-degree shot around Yang Cheng's naked body. Rich people were not like ordinary people. In their eyes, money was just a number, but face was something that was essential when they went out. Especially men, they could even break their heads and bleed for the sake of face. In ancient times, there were many who died for the sake of face. Therefore, Xiao Qi was very clear that as long as she had the photo, it would not be a problem to take away more than 10 million worth of jewelry in front of Yang Cheng. Even if she threatened to take 10 million, Yang Cheng would not dare to refuse. In this era where the internet was so developed, it was too easy to spread digital information. No one could guess how many copies there were, and no one could stop the spread. If this plan really caught a rich man with impure intentions, it would be very smooth, because no super rich man would risk his reputation for more than 10 million. But it was a pity that Xiao Qi chose the wrong person from the beginning. At the last moment of the photo shoot, Yang Cheng's sleeping body suddenly rolled all the way to the side of the bed, and both of his hands grabbed randomly, as if he was sleepwalking. Ah! Xiao Qi was shocked by the sudden change, and she exclaimed. Her leg was actually hugged by Yang Cheng. Chapter 754. Ji Qing, your wine tastes so good. Yang Cheng mumbled in his sleep. He closed his eyes and said, My head is so dizzy. My body is so hot. Your body is so cool. Let me hug you. How did you? Xiao Qi could not believe that Yang Cheng had not completely fainted. She should not have given him the wrong medicine. Could it be that after being placed in the fridge, the medicine's effects had been reduced? Without any time to think, Xiao Qi struggled to free herself from Yang Cheng's arms. However, Yang Cheng's arms were like steel bars. Even if she wanted to pull her leg out, there was not enough space. That's strange. Why is this evil man so strong? A fierce look flashed in Xiao Qi eyes. She had already been taken advantage of so much. It was only right for her to get some of it back. With this in mind, she could not help but sneer. Fine, you won't let go, right? Since you can't fall asleep even after being poisoned by the dream token, I'll give you some 10 fragrant bone softening powder. Let's see if you still have the strength to do anything bad. As she said that, Xiao Qi-Ching placed the camera on the bedside table. She pulled open the drawer and took out a seemingly ordinary white porcelain bottle. She carefully brought the bottle's mouth close to Yang Cheng's nose. When the bottle's mouth was in front of Yang Cheng's nose, Xiao Qi-Ching immediately pulled out the red stopper. She even deliberately brought it close to Yang Cheng's nostrils. You perverted and evil pig. Let's see if you still have the strength to hug me now. Xiao Qi-Ching snorted coldly. She stuffed the bottle back into the drawer and threw it back into the drawer. Just when the woman thought that everything was over and that she could easily escape from Yang Cheng's arms, she suddenly realized that Yang Cheng's arms were still tightly gripping onto her. Xiao Qi-Ching revealed a look of disbelief. Her watery eyes widened as she lowered her head to look at the man lying on the bed. She was suddenly stunned, because at this moment, Yang Cheng had already raised his head with a profound expression, revealing a trace of an unfathomable smile at her. Yang Cheng, trusted you so much. The first time we met, I put in so much effort and money for you. I didn't even get any tangible benefits. It's one thing for you to threaten me with a gun, but why did you have to poison me? TSK. I heard it, 10 fragrant bone softening powder. That drug seems to be very potent. Don't tell me you're going to cripple me, Yang Cheng said with a sad face. No, that's impossible. Xiao Qi-Ching was frightened and absent-minded. She shook her head slightly. She suddenly felt that she had changed from a hunter to a prey. Why? You seem to be disappointed that I'm not poisoned. Yang Cheng smiled evilly. Then let me comfort you. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Qi-Ching felt her body lighten. She was lifted easily by Yang Cheng. He spun her in the air and threw her onto the bed. Without waiting for Xiao Qi-Ching to resist, Yang Cheng had already pounced on the woman. Both his hands grabbed her, and both his legs used his lower body to block her. The two of them faced each other. Their eyes met, and their breaths mingled, warm and moist. Yang Cheng's action of pressing down on her was considered to be an intimate contact with the soft beauty. Xiao Qi-Ching's skin was exceptionally smooth, and every inch of it felt exceptionally soft. What was enjoyable was that the woman's body seemed to be covered with a layer of cool water. Even through the towel blanket, he could feel the slight coldness coming from within. A pair of bulging snow-white peaks pressed against Yang Cheng's chest. The two lumps of bouncy temptation made Yang Cheng's body squirm uncontrollably. He could clearly feel the wonderful feeling brought about by the two protrusions. Below, a pair of white and tender thighs, due to Xiao Qi-Ching's efforts to resist, were constantly rubbing against Yang Cheng's legs. The soft flesh that was like white tofu was exposed to the air. Every time they came into contact, it was like a clear spring gushing past. He was worried that if he exerted a little more strength, it would shatter like a water flower. Xiao Qi-Ching's jet-black hair was still wet. It was scattered on the white bedsheet. Her mellow and wine-red face was as red as the frost in February. Her pair of beautiful eyes were sparkling with dew. At this moment, she finally realized that from the beginning, her thoughts had been guessed by this pretentious guy. He had been playing with her all along. From the initial panic to the subsequent unwillingness to admit it, at this moment, there was only a stubborn and nameless anger left. She had actually been played by someone. Yang Cheng lowered his head. From the position of the woman's neck, his lips pressed against the cool, snow-white skin. His lips slid down to Xiao Qi-Ching's ear, and he used his teeth to lightly bite on the pink earlobe. The tingling sensation, coupled with the aroma of red wine in her mouth and nose, made Xue Jiqing shiver uncontrollably. Her dimples on her chest blushed an intoxicating shade of red. So, you were pretending all along. Xiao Qi-Ching choked back the tears of humiliation. Yang Cheng clicked his tongue in wonder. Miss Jiqing, why is your body so soft like tofu in water? I've never met a woman before. You're so soft and cool. You're the most valuable treasure I've seen today. Shameless. Xiao Qiqing cursed angrily. Ha ha. Yang Chang shook his head indifferently. I didn't do anything. It was Miss Jiqing who brought me to this point. If Miss Jiqing had given me the money, and I had given you the two things, we would have been even. It was Miss Jiqing who insisted on poisoning me. She even poisoned me twice. She even took a picture of me as a souvenir. I had no choice but to resist. Oomph. If you didn't have evil intentions, you wouldn't have touched me the moment you saw me. Xiao Qiqing said disdainfully. I'm a normal man. Today is a rare opportunity for me to come out and talk about life with a beauty. If I didn't touch a beauty like this, then I would be a hypocrite. Although I am not an evil man, I am not a gentleman either. It's just a touch. I won't make Miss Jiqing pregnant. Yang Cheng grinned. Besides, I won't stop Miss Jiqing from touching me. I am very generous. You scoundrel. Xiao Qiqing was so angry that she wanted to kick this man away. But Yang Cheng was pressing her body down. If she made too much noise, she would only be taken advantage of by the man. Go on, shout a few more times. It'll be more exciting if you shout more. What are you trying to do? Xiao Qiqing could no longer care about anything else. Me? Yang Cheng smiled easily. Since you've tried to harm me time and time again, of course I can't let it go. It's rare to meet such a good bed partner. Moreover, none of us are good people. There's no need to care. How can I let this go? You. Yang Cheng was excited. Ignoring the woman's murderous eyes, he sat up from Xiao Qiqing and straddled the beauty's legs. At the same time, his hand reached for the collar of the bathrobe. This kind of loose bathrobe was only tied with a belt. With a slight pull, the full peaks inside would pop out. Yang Cheng couldn't wait to bury his face in them. But just as he was about to make his move, Xiao Qiqing's eyes suddenly turned fierce. Her pair of white arms that had regained their freedom lifted up to block. At the same time, two fingers on each of her left and right hands fiercely pecked at two precise spots on Yang Cheng's hands. Yang Cheng didn't stop her. He let the two hands stab at different spots on his wrists and palms. Xiao Qiqing thought she had succeeded. But after she hit him, she realized that Yang Cheng was only looking at her with interest. His smile was especially wide. Miss Jiqing, you really keep surprising me. First was the dream-like token, then the 10 fragrant bone softening powder that I've never heard of. Now, you're using acupoint sealing to hit my Tsuchi and Higo acupoints. If not for the fact that Miss Jiqing doesn't have any internal energy, I would have thought that she was a female disciple of some ancient martial arts sect. I was even worried that a bunch of old nuns and old Taoists would come and fight me to the death. Yang Cheng said with a sigh. Xiao Qiqing looked at Yang Cheng in a daze. Then she cried out, You were sent by that old man? Huh? What old man? Yang Cheng didn't understand. A hint of panic flashed across Xiao Qiqing's eyes, but there was more bitterness and coldness. Don't pretend. You know about internal energy and ancient martial arts sects. And even if I don't have internal energy, it's impossible for a normal person to not react to my acupoint sealing. You must be an expert sent by that old man to capture me, right? Or are you sent by the Luo family to take me back? Yang Cheng was even more confused. But in his heart, he more or less knew that this woman had escaped. But she wasn't his woman, so he couldn't care less. He curled his lips and said, I can only tell you that what I said has nothing to do with you. I just want to spend half a day rolling in the sheets with you. As for anything else, I don't know, and I don't want to know. I advise you to stop resisting. You can't escape, and I don't want to be too violent. Since you can't grasp the chance to escape from my hands, then quietly endure my little revenge. Humph. Xiao Qiqing suddenly smiled coldly and looked at Yang Cheng with ridicule. It seems that you really weren't sent by them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in such a hurry to die. Yang Cheng laughed and said, If there's anything that can make me stop now, it's my wife rushing over to stare at me. Otherwise, even if you know any powerful experts, I'm too lazy to care. You have a wife, but you're still fooling around outside. Men really aren't good. Xiao Qiqing looked at him with more and more contempt. Yang Cheng was quite embarrassed and scratched his head. Hee hee, look at what you're saying. I was thinking about my baby wife, so I thought of going to the auction house to buy some gifts to bring back to my country. Who asked you to disturb my originally peaceful spring water? It's you who made me do bad things so quickly. I'm guilty, guilty. You're as timid as a mouse, and you still want to push this kind of responsibility to a woman like me. Xiao Qiqing glanced at him contemptuously and turned her head away. If you want my body, take it. But let me tell you in advance, you won't even know how you died. Yang Cheng saw that the woman had given up resisting and was waiting for a good show. He muttered a few words, and his eyes swept from the woman's face down for a while. Gradually, a trace of surprise appeared in Yang Cheng's eyes. Strange. Miss Jiqing, why are there so many deadly poisons in your body? That's not right. These poisons are enough to kill thousands of people, but you're not affected at all. What's going on? Xiao Qiqing suddenly turned her head, her eyes as sharp as ice blades. You, how did you know? You make it sound so scary. Of course I have to see what's going on. Yang Cheng curled his lips. You see, you saw through it? Xiao Qiqing's face finally showed a trace of seriousness. She asked with a trembling voice, Who are you? Chapter 755. Me? Yang Cheng kept his secret and replied, Of course it's the man who wants your body. You know what I'm asking, but since you don't want to answer me, then I won't ask anymore. In any case, I only have myself to blame for falling into your hands. I didn't see through you. Xiao Qiqing gritted her teeth. Her heart was filled with doubt. This man was so strange that he could easily see through her body. This gave her a glimmer of hope, and she said, Since you can see that my body is filled with deadly poison, do you still want to use force? Yang Cheng raised his eyebrows. Why not? Aren't you afraid of death? Xiao Qiqing looked at the man as if she was looking at a monster and said in a hoarse voice, My body, blood, organs, and bones are all highly toxic. As long as some of the secretions in my body touch your body, it wouldn't be strange for your entire body to fester in a short period of time. Furthermore, aren't you curious why my body is filled with poison and I can still live so normally? It doesn't matter. Thinking about it is a waste of time. Dying under a peony flower, becoming a ghost, is also a romantic. You're simply an idiot pervert who's courting death. Xiao Qiqing was about to go crazy from anger. Although she had said these words to make the man give up on her, she had indeed saved his life. Yang Cheng ignored her and licked his lips in high spirits. His hands untied the belt of Xiao Qiqing's bathrobe, and then he pulled the bathrobe open. A snow-white body that looked like an ice sculpture appeared in front of Yang Cheng, carrying the sweet fruit fragrance of the shower gel and the faint milky fragrance of the woman. Xiao Qiqing's willowy waist was extremely slender, forming a sharp contrast with the woman's pair of unrestrained fat white rabbits. Her collarbone seemed to be exquisitely carved, suddenly exuding a delicate aura. Because of her nervousness, Xiao Qiqing's delicate body trembled, and tears welled up in the corners of her eyes, making her look especially lovely. Because of this, the pair of soft tofu in front of her chest also trembled. Yang Cheng was worried that they would melt with a single touch. Looking further down, under the woman's flat abdomen, was a pair of exceptionally round and plump buttocks. Under a pair of flesh-colored lace panties, a small patch of fragrant grass could be seen, sparsely scattered. Yang Cheng had a spineless thought. It was worth it to be struck by lightning for this bedmate who had delivered herself to his doorstep. Xiao Qiqing silently closed his eyes, the corners of his mouth revealing a trace of a self-pitying smile. Yang Cheng no longer pressed down on her and quickly took off his boxers. Seeing that the woman was giggling with her eyes closed, he couldn't help but ask, What? You look forward to it? Come on. Xiao Qiqing suddenly said, Huh, ever since I became sensible, I never thought that a man would have a relationship with me in this life, so I never thought that this day would come. But since you insist on doing this, and you're not even afraid of death, then what's there for me to be afraid of? At most, you take away my innocence, and I'll send you to the next world. We don't owe each other anything, but don't die too ugly. Xiao Qiqing lightly said, revealing a sense of indifference and boredom. The room became quiet. Yang Cheng looked at the woman with a complicated gaze for a while. Since you've said so, do you dare to do one thing in front of me? Xiao Qiqing opened her eyes and looked at Yang Cheng, who suddenly became serious. What? Yang Cheng gloomily pointed at the woman's two round and beautiful legs that were tightly pressed together. You've closed your legs so tightly, it's not easy for me to help you take off your pants. Xiao Qiqing's anger that had just calmed down was ignited again. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger, and she was so angry that her chest was heaving up and down. She couldn't wait to pounce on the man and bite him to death. You'd better die an ugly death. The uglier the better. Xiao Qiqing cursed through her teeth. She suddenly sat up and quickly took off her underwear and threw it on the floor. Then she lay on the bed like a corpse and spread her legs, revealing the peach garden in the middle. Okay, are you satisfied now? In front of a man whom she had just met for the first time, she unreservedly exposed the most private part of her body for him to see. Xiao Qiqing didn't know what was going on. Perhaps it was because she couldn't see the end of her painful life, and she didn't want to continue like this, or it was because she let go of all her reserved instincts in a desperate situation. In short, she really wanted to die, but she also felt a sense of relief. Yang Cheng stared at the bottom of the two white and flawless thighs. The pink valley was really more beautiful than any landscape painting. Have you seen enough? Is this the first time you've seen a woman like this? Xiao Qiqing said unhappily. No matter how reckless she was, she still felt uncomfortable in her heart. Yang Cheng came back to his senses and smiled foolishly. I've seen quite a lot, but it's rare to see such a beautiful one. Looking at the man's silly smile, Xiao Qiqing knew that he was praising her seriously, but the praise was involuntarily. No matter how unwilling Xiao Qiqing was, she also shyly felt a little moved, and her eyes were filled with love. Suddenly, both of Yang Chen's hands grabbed onto the two piles of snow with a little force. What are you doing? It hurts. Xiao Qiqing was just about to scold Yang Cheng for being rude, but she didn't expect that at that moment. There was a piercing pain coming from below. A wave of boiling hot current instantly entered her body and completely pierced through the tunnel that had been sealed in ice for more than 20 years. Xiao Qiqing's tears instantly rolled down uncontrollably, wetting the snow-white bedsheets. She knew that in that moment, when she wasn't paying attention, she had bid farewell to an era of being a girl. Furthermore, this man who took away her youth would die very soon. Yang Cheng giggled. His hands became very gentle as he caressed the delicate skin. I was afraid that you would be too nervous and tense up your nerves, which would cause more pain, so I attracted your attention. Very soon, it will become more and more comfortable. I guarantee that you will fall in love with this feeling. I'm an experienced fighter, not a flowery one. Looking at the man's proud face, Xiao Qiqing sneered. You'd better think of a way to let yourself live a little longer. If you have any last words, say them quickly, although I won't care about you. Sigh, look at you. We were just like water and milk. Why do you have to say such words that spoil the mood? Yang Cheng shook his head regretfully. You should be able to feel that the thing you left in my body is a little cold, Xiao Qiqing said with a smile. Yang Cheng was stunned for a moment. He carefully felt it and immediately felt that something was wrong. According to common sense, after entering a woman's body, his spear should be wrapped in a warm feeling. But Xiao Qiqing's body was strangely cold. This woman was actually cold-blooded? No wonder, from the beginning to the end, he couldn't feel her body temperature rising at all. Her skin felt as if it was soaked in water, and her body temperature was originally lower than normal. Because of this, although Xiao Qiqing was a virgin, not a single trace of blood flowed out, and the blood in her body had long solidified. What was even stranger was that strands of yin qi from Xiao Qiqing's body began to gradually enter Yang Cheng's body through his precious fellow. Yang Cheng frowned. In your body, not only is there poison, there's also an innate cold poison. Xiao Qiqing sneered. So what if it is? To think that you still have the mood to ask me and think about these things. It's already too late. You can't be saved anymore. Yang Cheng nodded his head with interest. That might not be the case. After saying that, Yang Cheng forcefully pushed his butt against her. Xiao Qiqing's pretty face paled. She had just become a woman, When Yang Cheng forcefully pushed into the depths of the bud, she almost fainted from the stimulation. "My dear Miss Jiqing, we've just started. I've already said I won't let you go if I don't get justice in half a day." Yang Cheng laughed heartily, ignoring Xiao Qiqing's incredulous gaze. And just like that, he wantonly worked on her newly cultivated body in the long afternoon. In this quiet and secluded hotel room, mandarin ducks were intertwined, jade acacia, and the sound of music was faintly discernible. Following Yang Cheng's tireless campaign, Xiao Qiqing's initial slight pain gradually became better. At first, the woman was still trying hard to understand why this bad guy. After intimate contact with her, not only did he not die from the cold poison invading his body, but he was also so powerful. But later, with Yang Cheng's wave after wave of wild attacks, Xiao Qiqing felt like she was sitting on top of the clouds, rising and falling like a lonely boat in the vast sea, completely forgetting everything else. Yang Cheng tirelessly moved the woman's soft body into various positions. This Xiao Qiqing's body was really soft to the extreme. Perhaps because of her cold body constitution, she could perfectly display all the strange positions. Her skin was as smooth as silk, making Yang Cheng unable to let go. Seeing that the woman's expression gradually became a little unfocused, and even her moans were subconsciously gasping, Yang Cheng then realized that he had actually exercised for most of the afternoon unknowingly. After venting for the third time, Yang Cheng let Xiao Qiqing lie down peacefully. He picked up the glass of red wine left at noon, drank it up, wiped his mouth, and said to the woman who was in a semi-conscious state, "This wine is good, and your medicine is also good. It is colorless and tasteless, and didn't affect the taste of the wine." Xiao Qiqing gradually woke up, and she was extremely lazy and powerless. Looking at the man in front of her who had defiled her for several hours, she felt that she was dreaming. Even if she had no experience in this aspect, she had never heard of anyone who could do this for an entire afternoon. "Are you really okay?" Xiao Qiqing couldn't believe it and asked emotionlessly. At this moment, for her, she couldn't even hate him. Yang Cheng stretched out his hand and patted her white thigh, stirring up a layer of rippling flesh, and asked, "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" Xiao Qiqing frowned in puzzlement. After being asked by Yang Cheng, she then realized that there seemed to be something wrong with her body. Gradually, a trace of surprise flashed through Xiao Qiqing's watery and hazy eyes. Her dispirited face was completely covered up, and she trembled while covering her mouth, and said to herself, The poison is gone? How could this be?" Yang Cheng looked at the woman who was crying tears of joy with a warm smile. "Although you don't say it, I can guess it. Although your physique is special, and the poison won't kill you, but it has been dormant in your body for a long time, and it will definitely act up from time to time. At that time, you must be in so much pain that you want to die. I'm afraid that's the reason why you aren't afraid of death. Originally, I want to find a partner to have some fun, but you lied to me and poisoned me, so I naturally won't be soft-hearted. But since you're a virgin, then I can't be too stingy. Take it as a tip and help you get rid of the poison." Chapter 756. Yang Cheng said it casually, but in Xiao Qiqing's ears, it was like thunder in spring. For a moment, the man became more and more unfathomable. "Who exactly are you? Even the elders are helpless against my cold poison. How did you get rid of it so easily?" Yang Cheng said disapprovingly, "I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I didn't really treat your cold poison at all. Your cold poison didn't come from the outside world, but the innate cold poison that was emitted from your meridians. I could only remove the poison that had accumulated in your body and use some methods to protect your meridians. If it was in the past, I really wouldn't be able to treat it, but now I can help you suppress it. It won't be corroded by the cold poison, although it doesn't cure the root cause, but if there are no accidents within 50 years, your cold poison won't flare up again." 50 years? Xiao Qiqing's eyes widened. "What, you think it's too short? Be content. You were lucky to meet me. Others might not have a solution. Actually, this is also a conservative estimate. If there are no accidents, There won't be a problem even after you die. Yang Chung curled his lips. We were fated to be lovers. You wanted to make me lose money, so I took your chastity and removed your illness. I've done my best. Xiao Qi-Ching turned a deaf ear to him and muttered, You can actually treat my 9 meridians. How? Is that possible? Oh, so that strange meridian of yours is called the 9 meridian. It's really Yin. I guess the poison in your body was absorbed into your body in order to fight poison with poison. Yang Chung smiled and shook his head. This method is really cruel. When Xiao Qi-Ching heard this, a trace of intense hatred flashed through her eyes, as if she wanted to eat someone. That's right, it's cruel. Yang Chung didn't pay attention to her. He couldn't be bothered to care about what this woman was thinking. He walked to the bathroom naked. After a good afternoon, his stomach was a little empty. He planned to take a shower and go back to Kristen's for dinner. When Xiao Qi-Ching saw the man enter the bathroom, she pulled back from her thoughts and laid alone on the bed. She turned her head and looked at the mess on the bed, and her cheeks flushed red. This was simply a dream. What seemed like an ordinary crime to her was not only captured, but also lost her chastity to this strange man. She had thought that everything was over. Who knew that this man had unknowingly removed the pain that had plagued her since she was young? Feeling an unprecedented comfort in her body, experiencing the feeling of a normal person, Xiao Qi-Ching couldn't help but feel sad and happy at the same time. Her wet eyes became misty. Not long after, Yang Chung took a shower. After coming out of the bathroom, he began to put on his clothes and pants, buttoning up his buttons. He said to the woman who was still in a daze on the bed, Miss Ji-Ching, I will take the diamond ring back to my woman, but I will leave the bottle of wine for you to drink. After all, I have drunk more than half of your good wine. I had a good time today. I will never see you again. When Xiao Qi-Ching saw that Yang Chung was about to leave, she finally recovered and involuntarily cried out, You are leaving just like that? Yang Chung turned back and said with a strange smile, What? Do you want me to take responsibility? Of course not. Xiao Qi-Ching hurriedly denied, but she did not know why her heart was pounding. Biting her lip, she evaded his gaze and asked, I just want to know, how did you know that I set you up? Oh, you want to know your loopholes so that you can improve the next time you lie to others? Yang Chung laughed and said, There is no harm in telling you. In fact, there is no obvious loophole in your plan. Xiao Qi-Ching frowned in confusion. The biggest reason is that you chose the wrong person to lie to. Yang Chung said, You observed me in the open-air cafe next to the Julian auction house this morning. I noticed you at that time. You must have been observing people who didn't have a female companion and drove a luxury car to attack them. You must have given priority to Asian people like me, because it would be easier to get close to them. After you chose me, you pretended to wait for me at the insurance office to see if I had money to pay. After confirming that I was the buyer, you came to talk to me. You are smart to choose what you want to buy. A bottle of wine is basically the cheapest item, and the diamond ring is the most expensive. You must have thought that you can get at least one of them. As for the most expensive one, it depends on the person's luck. Xiao Qi-Ching hesitantly asked, I am so far away from you, but you can still sense me. Are you an expert in Hongmeng? This time, it was Yang Chung who was surprised. He stared at the woman for a while and said, You actually know Hongmeng. Interesting, but unfortunately, you guessed wrong. I'm not familiar with them. If there is nothing else, I will leave. Xiao Qi-Ching felt uncomfortable, but she had no reason to call Yang Chung again. She could only watch the man leave and close the door. When the room was completely silent, the woman sighed faintly and looked at the ceiling with a lonely expression. After resting for a while, she was about to get up and go to the bathroom to wash off the sticky things on her body. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of the camera on the bedside table. Xiao Qi-Ching's eyes lit up as if she had seen a treasure. She revealed a seductive smile like a vixen. Outside the hotel, the lights were already bright, and the crescent moon was hanging high in the sky. Yang Chung walked out of the hotel and felt the cooling temperature. He was in a good mood, as if he had been charged with electricity. Although he liked Xiao Qi-Ching's soft and cold body, Yang Chung didn't feel much regret leaving her. No matter what her background was or what her life experience was, from the first time he met her, he had been acting with no real feelings. Moreover, Yang Cheng could vaguely sense that Xiao Qiqing might have a lot of trouble behind her back. He didn't want to be innocently involved. As for the woman giving him her first time, Yang Cheng didn't take it too seriously. If she hadn't poisoned him first, he wouldn't have forcefully taken it. This wasn't the first time he had gone crazy with Anshin. He had taken the initiative to pick up Anshin that night, but this woman had pestered him, so he couldn't be blamed. Therefore, he didn't feel any psychological burden at all. Returning to the blue Porsche, Yang Chun started the car. Seemingly unintentionally glancing at the rearview mirror, the corner of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Then, as usual, he drove towards the main road outside. Huaxia, Beijing, Ning family study. Ning Guangyao stood by the desk, his hand gently stroking an exquisite white jade lion paperweight as he listened to a family subordinate's report. The square-faced man in a black suit was standing at the door, carefully explaining. When he heard that it was about time, Ning Guangyao interrupted and asked, "So you're saying, these days, Madam has been with that little beggar?" "Yes, Madam's 3 meals a day are all provided by that little beggar. Moreover, it seems that Madam has had a fever twice, and that beggar is still taking care of her," the suited man replied. A complicated expression flashed across Ning Guangyao's calm face as he coldly narrowed his eyes. "That beggar, what's his background? Have you found out?" "It's just a poor boy from an ordinary family who failed his college entrance examination a few years ago. Moreover, that beggar is a cripple and doesn't have any welfare protection, so he's been fooling around outside." From the mouths of some beggars near Zhonghai, I heard that the cripple is very popular among beggars. Because he is literate and has some knowledge, he often helps some homeless people. Ning Guangyao nodded. "Did Madam take the initiative to contact her family or anyone else?" The suited man shook his head. "Madam has always been depressed and has never come into contact with anyone, except for that cripple." "Oh, right, the eldest grandson of the Yang family, Yang Cheng, met with Madam once, but he didn't stay for long." Hearing the name, Yang Cheng, Ning Guangyao's hand that was stroking the white jade lion tightened its grip as if it wanted to embed its fingers into it. But very quickly, Ning Guangyao's expression returned to normal, and he asked coldly, "How are the 3 beggars that I asked you to kill?" "Don't worry, Patriarch. Those 3 dogs have already been fed to the fish in the sea." The suited man sneered. "Do it cleanly." "Yes, but, Patriarch, why didn't you let us bring Madam back? Moreover, that cripple is also one of the evil dogs that should be slaughtered." A trace of pain and ruthlessness flashed across Ning Guangyao's eyes. Finally, he became decisive and said, "Madam, she is no longer the madam of the Ning family." The suited man raised his head as if he didn't understand. "Find a time to bring Madam and that cripple back to Beijing. Remember to be more nimble and don't let any of the citizens find out. If anything happens, don't live to see me." Ning Guangyao said gloomily. The suited man seemed to have realized something, and a trace of deep fear and helplessness flashed across his eyes. But in the end, he still nodded heavily. "Patriarch, don't worry. For the Ning family, I will sacrifice my life. I know your loyalty. This kind of matter that concerns the 100 years of glory of the Ning family can only be handled by our own people. Remember, don't let the young master know," Ning Guangyao solemnly warned. The man in the suit nodded knowingly. Seeing that Ning Guangyao had no intention to continue explaining, he left quietly. After the door closed, Ning Guangyao walked to the inside of the desk alone. He lowered his head and looked at a photo on the desk. In the photo, there was a smiling couple, himself and Luo Tsuishan. Ning Guangyao's face was filled with grief and indignation. He smiled bitterly. "Tsuishan, forgive me." "Pa!" With a palm strike, the photo frame directly fell onto the table and shattered. Chapter 757. Morning in Zhonghai, Yulei International Headquarters, top floor CEO's office. Zhao Hongyan, who had just been appointed as the CEO's assistant, wore a black round-neck suit and a bright red skirt that wrapped around her 2 beautiful legs. Her black fishnet stockings formed a strong visual contrast of red and black, which was charming and seductive. Yulei International didn't require its employees to purposely pursue uniforms and rigorous tidiness. As long as it wasn't vulgar, any fashion or ordinary combination was allowed. Zhao Hongyan was a little reserved and didn't dare to breathe too loudly. She carefully carried the tray and placed a few refilled cups of green tea on the coffee table next to the company's top executive sofas. At the same time, she had a somewhat stiff smile on her face. Lin Ruoshi was discussing the latest acquisition project with a few executives. In such a meeting, other than the core power holders, only she, as the CEO's assistant, had the opportunity to hear some clues. Yulei International now had tens of thousands of employees around the world. In addition to the inherent fields of fashion clothing, luxury goods, cosmetics, etc., it had already blossomed in the entertainment industry, tourism industry, and real estate industry. Projects that easily cost billions of dollars, if placed in an ordinary company, may not have the ability to develop even after a few years. But in the Yulei International headquarters, there were often people who would execute it. Zhao Hongyan was just a small female employee in the public relations department. Although she was in the headquarters, she actually had very few opportunities to see the CEO, not to mention access to the core secrets. In recent days, when she was promoted, her ears kept hearing hundreds of billions of numbers, making the young woman dizzy, especially whenever she had to help Lin Ruoshi copy some documents. Looking at the various plans that could have a huge impact in the future, Zhao Hongyan's hands would tremble. No wonder Wu Yu, who was only an assistant, was so arrogant in the company. She was even more deeply trusted by the CEO than some of the department heads. Zhao Hongyan also increasingly admired her own boss. Other than the meetings, this woman didn't speak more than 10 sentences in the company for a whole day. This woman, who was a few years younger than her, could easily spend a mountain of money with a simple signature. Zhao Hongyan felt that if she had this much money, she might not be happy, but directly go crazy. After refilling the tea for the executives, Zhao Hongyan quietly retreated. She didn't dare to stay in the office any longer. Although Lin Ruoshi wouldn't mind, she would still feel stuffy if she heard a few more words. After the office door was closed, Lu Mingyu, who was sitting on the right side of Lin Ruoshi, said with a smile, "In the past few years, Wu has always been the assistant, but now it's Hongyan. Although we are all acquaintances, I'm not used to it." Because everyone present was a female executive, the conversation was particularly relaxed. In fact, it was not as serious as Zhao Hongyan had imagined. Another female head of the marketing department also nodded with a smile. It's all because the public relations department is a place blessed with outstanding people. There are always talents that our General Lin has taken a liking to. But to be honest, Assistant Wu went to the United States to marry Vice President Li and have a child. Now that I see Hongyan as an assistant, I'm not used to it. She was wearing a Chanel Spring summer sequin tweed jacket with the same plain dress suit and pearl pendant waist chain, which made Lin Ruoshi's elegant temperament particularly charming. Holding her usual Mont Blanc gold pen, Lin Ruoshi casually drew a few circles on the document and said indifferently, "My assistant, you don't need to get used to it." As soon as she said this, Lu Mingyu and the others couldn't continue and naturally quieted down. From the beginning to the end, only Mo Qianni, who was sitting on the left side of Lin Ruoshi, was a bit absent-minded and didn't participate in the conversation. Although she had makeup on, it couldn't hide the tired dark circles under her eyes. Lin Ruoshi didn't pay much attention to her. After instructing Lu Mingyu and the others to focus on the details, she announced the end of the short office meeting. After the female executives left one by one, Mo Qianni deliberately slowed down and stayed until the end. Holding the document, Mo Qianni looked at Lin Ruoshi with a pale face and said softly, "Ruoshi." Lin Ruoshi raised her head and said indifferently, "You don't seem to be in good health. If the work pressure is high and you don't get enough sleep, I can approve a few days off. Anyway, Mingyu and Chris will be more busy with the next few resort acquisitions. You don't have to be polite with me." Mo Qianni smiled and shook her head. "No, I don't mean to ask for leave." "Huh?" Mo Qianni pursed her thin lips and looked down, not daring to look at her sister for many years. Why can't I get through to him? Who? Lin Ruashi asked expressionlessly. Mo Chinny's voice became even lower. Yang Chung. Lin Ruashi's face showed a trace of coldness. Vice President Mo, I don't think it's reasonable for you to ask my husband's personal questions at work. Mo Chinny's eyes dimmed, and her delicate body trembled slightly. She tried hard to hold back the bitterness in her nose and forced a smile. I didn't think it through. Then, General Lin, I'm going to work. After silently bowing her head and apologizing, Mo Chinny turned around and walked out of the door. Just as she walked to the door, Lin Ruashi's voice came from behind. He went to the United States to stay with his friend Kristen. Mo Chinny stopped in her tracks, and her eyes were red. Thank you. With that, Mo Chinny immediately walked out and closed the door. Walking quickly to the elevator, Mo Chinny reached out and wiped the corners of her eyes. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Are you so unwilling to face our affairs that you want to hide abroad? However, the woman didn't delay for too long. As soon as the elevator arrived, she pretended to walk in as if nothing had happened. Mo Chinny, you came to this big city alone at the age of 13 and worked hard to survive. You've experienced all kinds of hardships. You won't be defeated so easily just because a man's feelings for you are shaken. And Mo Chinny silently told herself in her heart. However, she didn't know that after she left the office, Lin Ruashi, who appeared to be safe and sound, also slumped on the sofa with a slightly tired look in her eyes. Looking up at the ceiling, Lin Ruashi's complicated gaze was unfocused. She muttered, Lin Ruashi, you can't be soft on them. You can't. At the same time, Yang Chung, who was still far away in Los Angeles, didn't know that he had caused an unimaginable misunderstanding among the women in China because he had neglected to bring his cell phone out. But at this moment, he didn't have the time to think about the relationship between him and Mo Chinny. Mister, please show me your ID, a patrolling black traffic policeman said sternly as he stopped Yang Chen's car on a main road. Yang Chung spread out his hands and said helplessly, I'm sorry, but I didn't bring it because I came out to eat. Yang Chung was an illegal entry, so how could he have any ID? The black traffic policeman looked at him suspiciously. Since that's the case, I have sufficient reason to suspect that you stole the car. Please go back to the police station and have a good talk. Yang Chung smiled bitterly and said, Officer, there's no need to work so hard. It's already dark. Go home and hug a woman's baby. Please don't use insulting words, or I can sue you for assault. The black traffic policeman glared at Yang Chung, opened the door of the convertible Porsche, and gestured for Yang Chung to get into his police car. Yang Chung sighed bitterly. How is this a personal attack? However, he could only reluctantly turn off the car, pull out the key, hand it over to the black policeman, and then get into the police car. As soon as he got into the car, the young white policeman who was driving didn't say anything. He directly started the car and drove west toward the fork in the road. Yang Chung sat in the back seat with a bored look on his face. Officer, I haven't eaten dinner yet. Do you have any bread for me to eat? Neither of the two policemen said anything, as if they didn't hear anything at all. Yang Chung was asking for trouble, so he didn't say anything else. After the police car passed through a few streets, it arrived at a small port. In front of it, other than a few warehouses, there wasn't a single person, let alone a police station. Yang Chung had a puzzled look on his face. Hey, officer, did you drive the wrong way? This doesn't seem like a place with a police station. This time, the white policeman who was driving finally replied. He turned his head and revealed a hint of ridicule. I really didn't expect that the powerful and iron-blooded Hades, who once subdued the entire world, would one day fall to a point where he couldn't even tell his enemy apart. Chapter 758. Yang Chung frowned. Aren't you policemen? Who are you? The black policeman grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. You'll know in a moment. As they spoke, the police car stopped by the side of the road at the port. The white man said, Get out, everyone is waiting. Let's go meet the former Pluto. In the end, the two of them opened the door and got out of the car, ignoring Yang Chung. Yang Chung waited for them to get out of the car before revealing a bored expression. He shook his head and opened the door. The sea breeze from the port blew through Yang Cheng's thin shirt, causing the corners of his shirt to flutter. His face seemed to be covered with a faint layer of moisture. A row of sparse straight street lamps emitted a faint white light, illuminating the night at the port. The two policemen, one black and one white, were taking off their police uniforms, revealing the blue tight-fitting, short-sleeved shirts underneath. Their bulging muscles looked like they could erupt at any time. Blue Storm. Yang Cheng narrowed his eyes. I'm glad that His Majesty Pluto still remembers our organization. The white man's angular face revealed a rather proud smile. Let me introduce myself. My name is Seidel, and this is my partner, Stark. Yang Cheng smiled at them. Just the two of you? The black man, Stark, shook his head. Of course it's not just us. Originally, we specially dispatched a team of SEALs to be on the safe side, but now it seems that the two of us are more than enough. The once glorious Pluto now seems to have lost all his power. After saying that, Stark whistled. Thump, 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 thump. Rapid footsteps came from behind Yang Cheng. Two platoons of dozens of SEALs emerged from behind the containers with loaded guns. In the blink of an eye, they pointed their guns at Yang Cheng and surrounded him. Yang Cheng sighed. You want to kill me? Without waiting for the two men from Blue Storm to reply, a strange English voice came from the sea not far away. If you want to kill someone, I should be the one doing it. As soon as he finished speaking, a shadow seemed to gradually become clearer in the field. A man with long hair and wearing a flowery robe walked out from it, holding a katana in his hand. After the man appeared, a few other figures emerged from the surface of the sea. There was a long-haired woman in a gorgeous kimono, a strange man in a large black cloak, and a handsome Asian man with a short knife at his waist. Takamajira. This time, Yang Cheng laughed even more helplessly. You're just like Blue Storm. You came to kill me the moment you received news that I've lost my cultivation? This long-haired samurai was none other than the general of Takamahara, Nararahayan. That slippery demon. Nararahayan scrutinized Yang Cheng. Looks like you're no longer the same as before. At first, I didn't believe that you would end up like this. I heard that you were defeated by Poseidon, the god of the sea. Yang Cheng pursed his lips and said unwillingly, I guess so. It's a pity that I couldn't witness such a battle with my own eyes. But this has nothing to do with me. The one I want to defeat isn't the god, but you. Nararahayan pulled out his demon knife, Yamakurumaru, and pointed it at Yang Cheng. Today, I will avenge my lover, Yukiana. I thought you wouldn't attack me when I've lost my cultivation. Do you like to bully the weak too? Yang Cheng asked curiously. Nararahayan said, I'm not the one who weakened you. You became like this because you lost in battle. What does that have to do with me? I didn't use any tricks or schemes, so defeating the weak now won't go against my principles. At this time, Seidel of Blue Storm stopped him. Nararahayan, we didn't tell you the news to kill this man. You should know that he still has great value. If you dare kill him, don't blame us for turning against you. Nararahayan turned back and sneered. Don't worry, I have no interest in killing a crippled Hades. Since you sold this information to us at the first opportunity, you can't let me come for nothing. I don't want much. I just want to sever the meridians in this man's limbs and turn him into a cripple. Then, I'll hand him over to you. Yang Cheng sucked in a breath of cold air and clapped his hands. Our comrades from Blue Storm are really good at scheming. You even asked Takamagara, who has a grudge against me, to help you save your strength. But aren't you here to kill me? Why don't you let him take my life? You know the answer. Stark laughed disdainfully. Seidel walked forward with his hands in his pockets and said casually, although you don't have the strength you once had, and it's easy for us to kill you, this information is still only known to a small group of people like us. If you're willing to cooperate with us and hand over all the mercenary resources you have from all over the world, your energy reserves, weapons, your assets, and your assassin organization, zero, everything, maybe we could become good friends. You won't have to suffer too much physical pain, and you won't have to die at such a young age. As far as we know, you still have many women in Huaxia, don't you? Yang Cheng scratched his head. I see. Then can I ask another question? Go ahead, Seidel said. Who told you that I have no cultivation? Seidel threw his head back and laughed. Hades, oh Hades, don't try to be smart. To us, you are no different from a clown pretending to be calm. Do you think your bluff will work? Since we dare to make a move, we naturally got the news from the mouth of an absolute authority. We aren't stupid. If you had 1/10 of your strength, we wouldn't have dared to send so many people to encircle and kill you. Yang Cheng's eyes flickered for a while. I know. After I was seriously injured, other than Prandelli and Kristen, the only one left was Blue Storm's boss, the director of the FBI, Robert, right? So what if it is, you no longer have a chance? Black Man Stark took a step forward, tilted his head, and said fiercely, before this Japanese friend makes a move, I advise you to cooperate with us. We can help you beg him to spare you a hand or a leg or something. Although I really want to kill you, you killed my most beloved Judy. I can't wait to suck your blood and eat your flesh. Judy was the female member of Blue Storm who was killed by Yang Cheng in Japan. She was also a human descendant of Kristen's previous life. However, she was only a descendant born in a human body, so the gods didn't really care too much. Yang Cheng didn't expect that while Nurira Hyon was avenging his fiancée, Black Man Stark was avenging his lover. His lover was a Caucasian woman. Not only that, but he was also a Caucasian. Yang Cheng didn't rush to answer. Instead, he looked around and looked at the sky in the distance. Finally, he sighed. Is there really no one else who came with you? Any one of us is enough to deal with you, Nurira Hyon said coldly. Are you ready? I'm going to draw my sword. Yang Cheng furrowed his brows in annoyance. With his hands behind his back, he walked in a circle for a few steps. Then, he pointed at Takamagara and the others and scolded them. You people are really messy. Why did you come here for no reason? I was thinking that the guy who impersonated me would have the same idea as you and come here to add insult to injury. But now, you people just had to come here to join the fun when I was waiting for you. Even if you want to die, do you have to choose this critical moment? The four people of Takamagura, Seidel, and Stark looked at each other. Obviously, they didn't understand what Yang Cheng was talking about. Nurira Hyon was the first to react. He snorted angrily and said, I can no longer feel the aura of an expert on your body. Let's see how long you can be so stubborn. Take my Yamakarimaru. As soon as he finished speaking, Nurira Hyon's figure disappeared. When he reappeared, Nurira Hyon was already in the air in front of Yang Cheng. A cold glint flashed in his hand. Along with a blade of light, Nurira Hyon slashed at Yang Cheng's wrist. Chapter 759. Yang Cheng stood rooted to the spot with his hands on his hips. He was still in a rather displeased state. If not for the fact that he was embarrassed as a man, he would have pouted his lips like a little girl. The crowd from Takamajahara and Blue Storm saw this scene. Since Yang Cheng had lost his cultivation, he had not realized that Nurira Hyon's attack was already at his doorstep. Both sides were very disdainful. The blade flashed, and the sharp edge of the Yomi Kaimaru finally landed on the tendons of Yang Cheng's hand. No one knew who was the first to make a sound, but the crowd's originally unsurprised eyes revealed a trace of peculiarity. The Yomi Kaimaru had indeed slashed at Yang Cheng's hand, but the edge of the magic-repelling blade had not even cut a little of Yang Cheng's skin, let alone sever the tendons of Yang Cheng's hand. Yang Cheng glanced at Nurira Hyon indifferently. What are you done? Nurira Hyon's devilishly handsome face showed a trace of astonishment, and then he dodged and took a few steps back. It seems that although you have lost your cultivation, your body is still as strong as before. Random attacks cannot damage your body. Yang Cheng did not bother to explain. He remained standing where he was, thinking about what to do next. He had no interest in these people's attacks. Feeling despised, the figure hidden in the black cloak in Takamajahara whistled and came to Nurira Hyon's side. With a hoarse and rough voice, he said, Lord General, since this guy's body is very tough, there's no need for you to show your might. Why don't you let me have a try? Without the cultivation of the Chinese martial arts, no matter how tough his body is, there should be a limit. Keek keek. Nurira Hyon chuckled. Baron Skeleton, don't make the port look too ugly. No, do whatever you want, Seidel said indifferently. You don't have to worry about the area being affected. We've already contacted the police to seal off the area. No matter what happens, no one will come close. Jija. The desolate skeleton's laughter was especially sharp. Since it's like this old man won't be polite. As soon as he finished speaking, the black cloak flashed with two murky yellow lights. The cloak flew to the side, revealing the true body that was shrouded inside. It was a skeleton whose entire body was covered in an exaggerated yellowish-brown skeleton, presented in front of everyone. Apart from the two yellow flames dancing in its sunken eye sockets, the skeleton's entire body was empty. Moreover, every bone was shrouded in a chaotic black, poisonous fog. It was extremely strange. Seeing that their ally was such a terrifying character, some of the seals couldn't help but take a few steps back. The desolate skeletons were said to be the corpses of the soldiers who died in the ancient Japanese war. Because no one buried their corpses, their resentment continued to condense and transform into monsters. Not to mention the corpse poison that gathered countless corpses. Just the skeletons that condensed the essence of millions of corpses were unimaginably tough. As soon as the desolate skeleton revealed its true body, it began to expand rapidly in the air. Surrounded by the black fog, its bones quickly became thicker and longer. It was more than twice its previous size, becoming a huge skeleton with a height of about 3 meters. Pluto, let me give you a good beating and see how hard you can be. As the huge skeleton spoke, its speed was as fast as a bolt of lightning. With a single step, it arrived in front of Yang Chung. Bang! A bone fist the size of a millstone slammed into the place where Yang Chung stood. However, after the fist smashed a huge pit in the concrete ground, dust flew everywhere, but Yang Chung wasn't hurt at all. Unbeknownst to him, Yang Chung had already shifted behind the barren skeleton. At this time, everyone was shocked once again. Being hit and not being injured could be explained as the strength of the body was still there, but how could such a move that people couldn't even see the trajectory clearly be explained? Damn it, didn't he lose his cultivation? The black man, Stark, was a little panicked. No. Seidel shook his head. Since it's something that the Lord God has determined, it naturally can't be wrong. If I'm not wrong, although his cultivation is gone, because his physical condition is still there, his reaction speed is also beyond imagination. So he can do this. When everyone heard what he said, they were slightly relieved. After all, as long as his body was strong, they wouldn't be too afraid. Bastard! The desolate skeleton's attack missed, and it was furious. The black fog around its body suddenly gushed out from the gaps in its bones and rushed towards Yang Chung. Dodge! When Seidel saw this, he hurriedly commanded the few SEAL team members who were closer to Yang Chung to dodge. However, this command was still a little too late. 2 of the team members inhaled a little bit of the black fog corpse poison, and their skin festered and turned into a pile of rotten flesh on the spot. Their tragic deaths caused the other team members to take a dozen steps back. On the other hand, Yang Chung didn't walk away. He just pinched his nose, frowned, and waved his hand. It stinks. The barren skeleton flew into a rage out of humiliation. Its huge body was as fast as a whirlwind. With a turn of its body, it charged towards Yang Chung once again with the surging black poisonous fog. It opened its huge bony hands as if it wanted to grab Yang Chung. Where do you think you're going? The desolate skeleton roared. Seeing that Yang Chung didn't move at all and was about to be grabbed by him, the yellow flames in its 2 eye sockets were especially blazing. However, a ridiculous scene appeared once again. The huge hand that was surrounded by black fog was just about to grab Yang Cheng's body, but it stopped less than an inch away from Yang Cheng's body. Everyone was puzzled. Why did the desolate skeleton stop attacking? Hey, what are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and get rid of him, Stark said unhappily. The desolate skeleton's entire skeleton suddenly began to tremble, and it said hoarsely, I can't grab him. Everyone was shocked, and finally realized that the desolate skeleton seemed to be using all its strength, but it couldn't get even half an inch closer to Yang Chung. Nururi Hyan held the long sword in his hand, his eyes full of confusion. How is this possible? I don't feel any energy fluctuations. What the hell is going on? Just as Nururahayan said, the other two monsters from Takamajahara also looked solemn. Monsters were more sensitive to any energy fluctuations between heaven and earth and humans. But they couldn't see what method Yang Cheng had used to render the powerful desolate skeleton helpless. Moreover, the desolate skeleton's corpse poison was difficult to resist even for monsters. But Yang Cheng didn't react at all after inhaling it, and only said that it was stinky. Yang Cheng raised his head indifferently, full of waning interest, and said softly, "Disperse." No one understood what Yang Chen meant. What did he mean by dispersing? But what happened next sent chills down everyone's spine, as if their hearts had instantly fallen into a dark, muddy swamp. The desolate skeleton, which had been burly and mighty just a moment ago, suddenly became like a piece of rock that had been exposed to the wind and rain in the desert for a long time. Finally, after being lightly touched once again, they were weathered. Yes, grain by grain, as small as sand, they were barely visible to the naked eye before they dissipated in the sea breeze. The yellow willow, the wisps in the desolate skeleton's eyes were the last to be extinguished. When the willow, the wisps were extinguished, the skeleton and the lingering black fog were long gone. Desolate skeleton. How could? The red-clothed female monster, Maokong, covered her mouth and trembled as she staggered back. The seals were dumbfounded, and their hands that were holding their guns were shaking. Seidel and Stark's faces were stiff, and their eyes were filled with fear. At this moment, everyone present understood one thing. This man was not crippled at all. Nurerahayan's face was gloomy, and his murderous aura gradually filled the air. He clenched Yamakarimaru and said, "I really can't understand how you could kill my men without any energy fluctuations. However, it is obvious that your strength is still unfathomable. Since we have miscalculated, I think we have no other choice but to fight with our lives on the line. Lord General, let me and Fei too lend you a hand." Mao Qianghor shouted and signaled to the handsome male demon beside her with her eyes. She had made the decision to face death with equanimity. In the blink of an eye, Mao Qiang's jet-black hair fluttered all over the sky, and it transformed into numerous condensed and peerlessly sharp arrows. It was like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, but every flower was fatal, and the sharpness of the arrows could be discerned from the ear-piercing sound of them tearing through the air. All of them surrounded Yang Cheng. As for that flying barbarian's head, it had already flown away from his neck at some point in time. The remaining body quickly made dazzling pulling motions with its hands. In midair, the human head used its ears as wings, and its mouth, nose, eyes, and ears were all filled with silk threads that shuttled back and forth. These almost transparent silk threads, which could easily cut through jade, were about to restrict Yang Cheng's body to a small area. Profound meaning, clear mirror, cherry. Nurerahayan and his two subordinates' cooperation was flawless. After their figures became blurry again, countless pink cherry blossoms floated down from all directions around Yang Cheng's body. And these cherry blossoms seemed to have become raindrops, rippling in the air. Yang Cheng stood there indifferently, watching the countless petals dancing around his body. When they were about to touch his body, the delicate petals transformed into balls of blazing golden, demonic fire. Seidel and Stark from Blue Storm were overjoyed when they saw the remaining 3 demons of Takamagara suddenly exerting their strength. It seemed that these people were not ordinary. Maybe they still had a chance. The piercing arrows, the cutting silk threads, and the scorching flames that filled the sky formed a deadly prison that was difficult to break free from. Chapter 760. Yang Cheng stood there alone, looking at the sky full of fireworks. He seemed to be in a trance, but at the same time, he seemed to be attracted by the fireworks. Just as the crowd was filled with anticipation and thought that they were about to succeed, Ma Kuka suddenly let out a shrill scream. This scream caused everyone's soul to tremble. The deadly fireworks transformed into a swarm of locusts, peeling away from Yang Cheng's body and rushing towards Ma Kuka's body. Bright lights flashed, and the flames roared. Without waiting for Ma Kuka to react, the flames engulfed the demoness. The bright red kimono and its owner were burned to ashes in the demonic flames. This ultimate move that was originally intended to kill Yang Cheng had become the executioner that took the life of the beautiful demoness. Before the crowd could think about the reason, the flying head that was circling in the sky revealed a ferocious expression of pain, and blood flowed out from its 7 orifices. The blood seemed to be squeezed out from the head, and the entire head seemed to be squashed by a strong pressure. As the bones twisted, they shattered inch by inch. In the end, the entire skull was squeezed into a ball the size of a fist wrapped in flesh and blood, and fell to the ground. This scene was even more gory than watching a horror movie. What was even more incomprehensible was that Yang Cheng had been standing at the same spot the whole time. He did not do anything, nor did he make the slightest movement, but all of this had happened. As the head was squashed, the body of the flying head barbarian, like the desolate skeleton, turned into ashes and dissipated into the air. Not even his clothes were left behind. At this moment, the firefly-like flame gradually transformed into a human figure. It was Nurere Haiyan, who had failed to kill his killer move and burned his underling to death. Nurere Haiyan propped himself on the ground and spat out a mouthful of golden blood. He panted heavily as he stared at Yang Cheng. How'd you do it? Just now. Why couldn't I control myself? Yang Cheng's eyes flashed with a hint of curiosity. The bewitching blade technique you used just now, was it done by burning your own demon blood essence? Oh, no wonder it was so powerful. It's a pity that you met me. Such a technique is not a threat to me. I couldn't before, and I can't now. Even though I've lost today, I won't be too ashamed to meet the snow maidens in the netherworld. However, I still don't understand. Why can't I feel the slightest energy fluctuation from you? Yet you can play us all in the palm of your hand. Nurere Haiyan asked in dissatisfaction. Yang Cheng clicked his tongue awkwardly. It's not that I don't want to tell you, it's just that I can't explain it clearly myself. Those who understand will naturally know what I did, but those who don't understand won't understand even if I tell them. Cut the crap. If you want to live, hurry up and shoot him. Seidel and Stark saw that Nurere Haiyan and the others had failed. They gritted their teeth and decided to fight to the death. The dozens of seals finally came back to their senses. Although they were afraid, they had also been baptized by gunfire on the battlefield. At this moment, they were all 120% focused and raised the machine guns in their hands. The entire formation formed a fan shape and locked onto Yang Cheng's fatal spot at the same time. Fire! Tut, 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 tut. The large-caliber American-made machine guns spewed out dazzling tongues of flame. The entire port seemed to have been blown up, and the shocking sound of metal reverberated everywhere. The power of these powerful bullets had far exceeded the power of some artillery shells. Seidel and Stark did not have much hope. They already knew that the information Bluestorm received was that they had been tricked by Yang Cheng. Since this man was not afraid of bullets in the past, how could these enhanced bullets really have any effect? However, even if it was just a slight blow to Yang Cheng, this round of shooting had become their own nightmare. When all the bullets were a few centimeters away from Yang Cheng, they actually turned into metal powder in the air. Bang, 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 bang. Countless crisp sounds of explosions entered everyone's ears. It was the sound of bullets rubbing against the air. Before these sounds could be heard, these bullets had already disappeared from the world. They did not even have time to burn the gunpowder inside the bullets. How is this possible? This scene was much more terrifying than blocking all the bullets. No matter how ridiculous it was, how could he crush hundreds of thousands of bullets in a powder in a short-range firing process, when the air density was thousands of times higher? However, Yang Cheng had done it easily, and he did not even blink. Seidel and Stark had no other way out. Their faces were flushed, and they mustered up all their strength. The two of them jumped from both sides and attacked Yang Cheng. Although they knew that there was almost no chance of survival, they also knew that running away would only make them die faster. Even in this kind of sudden situation, calling for help was tantamount to suicide. Therefore, they could only fight for the last time. A green light flashed in Seidel's eyes. He spread his arms and clasped them together forcefully. Countless air blades suddenly appeared around Yang Cheng's body. These sharp blades used the principle of the atmosphere to form a strong pressure using the instantaneous vacuum. Even a steel plate more than 10 centimeters thick could only be crushed and broken. Yang Cheng glanced at the burly white man. Suddenly, the air blades formed by his superpower were all shattered. Before they could pose a threat, everything returned to its original state and turned into gusts of cool breeze. Just then, Stark approached. One of his fists was scorching red, and with a high temperature that could suck out the air, it smashed towards Yang Cheng's face. Yang Cheng raised a hand and blocked the trajectory of the fist. When the high-temperature fist was about to touch, it suddenly stopped and could no longer get close. Interesting, no wonder you can withstand this kind of high temperature that can melt iron. Your hand turns out to be made of alloy. Yang Cheng smiled with great interest, his eyes falling on Stark's fist. Stark was dumbfounded, and he opened his mouth but could not say a word. In the blink of an eye, all the superpower on his fist that had a high temperature had dissipated. The temperature plummeted in an instant, leaving behind only a black fist that was not threatening at all. I'm in a hurry. I'm going to say hello to your bureau chief. I won't play with you guys anymore. Yang Cheng smiled kindly. After withdrawing his hand, he turned around and walked in the direction he came from. After a few steps, Yang Cheng's figure gradually became indistinct, like a shadow hidden in the darkness, or a few drops of water falling into a lake, causing a slight ripple, and then disappeared without a trace. And all of this, Seidel and Stark, the exhausted Nurhayan, and the U.S. Navy SEALs could not react at all. A gust of sea breeze swept through the port again. On the quiet field, everyone was like a frozen sculpture. Then, like the barren skeleton, the winged barbarian, and other monsters, they turned into dust floating in the air and drifted with the sea breeze into the vast sea sky. Not even a speck of powder could be found. Like a dream, it came and went quickly. Yang Cheng did not feel much for the instigators of the dozens of lives that were lost. At the end of the day, they were just victims of the greed of the FBI director, Robert Mueller. Although Yang Cheng had thought that Robert must have been up to no good by forcing him to stay for a few days, he didn't expect it to be because Poseidon said that Yang Cheng had lost his cultivation and wanted to kill him. Unfortunately, from the moment he had that idea, he was destined to taste the bitter fruit that he could not refuse. As for his current cultivation, Yang Cheng was not very clear about the extent of it. After the Tai Ching heavenly thunder tribulation, the true core force in his body had dissipated, and the endless resolve restoration scripture had turned into an unknown form. Yang Cheng did not know where it was, but Yang Cheng knew that this mysterious technique was existing in an unprecedented, illusory form. Previously, Yang Cheng had heard from Abbess Yun Miao that this mystical technique was created by a bloodthirsty genius from Mount Shu 1,000 years ago, who turned into a prodigal son. Since ancient times, the number of disciples who could practice it could be counted on one hand, and the one who had practiced it to the highest level was Yang Cheng himself. However, at this moment, Yang Cheng did not really believe that piece of history. This was because the benefits that the endless resolve restoration scripture could bring were far beyond the scope of an inner force skill. Yang Cheng guessed that the ancestor of Mount Shu had learned it from somewhere else, but chose to keep it a secret, saying that it was his own creation. Of course, all of this was just speculation. All Yang Cheng knew was that if he did not meet an opponent who could match up to him, he was afraid that he would not be able to figure out the state of his cultivation. Not to mention explaining it to others, he only knew how to use his new ability, but did not know how to understand it. Previously, when Poseidon came to bid farewell to him, Yang Cheng had thought of fighting him again to see how good he was. However, when the words were on the tip of his tongue, Yang Cheng did not say it out loud. This was because Yang Cheng believed that Poseidon was no longer his opponent. although saying it out loud would definitely make people laugh. Yang Chung believed that fighting with Poseidon would be a battle without any suspense. It was completely meaningless, so he gave up. After this lightning tribulation, other than not knowing what realm of cultivation he was in, Yang Chung felt that his temperament was different. It was as if he was happier and more relaxed than before. He was more open-minded about many things than before. At the same time, there were many things that he was previously interested in, such as women, good wine, and cars. This was also why he was interested in the little maid, Sally, when he woke up. Later on, he fought with that wonderful person, Xiao Qi-Ching, for half a day. According to the common saying of becoming an immortal and having a pure heart and few desires, Yang Chung felt that he was more like a demon. He was infatuated with the mortal world, lusting after beautiful bodies, and enjoying the taste of alcohol. In short, the more he lived, the more tacky he became. Yang Chung did not know if this counted as entering the tribulation stage, but Yang Chung was sure that he was going through the tribulation. It was not the lightning tribulation, but the tribulation of life. Perhaps one day, when he really reached the other end, he would feel relieved about everything and say, "Oh, I see." When Yang Cheng's figure appeared again, it was on the balcony of the second floor of Kristen's mansion. His body seemed to have been peeled out of thin air and gradually became human. Calmly looking at the beautiful night sky that was like a veil, Yang Chung turned around and went back into the house. Regardless of Robert's reaction, Yang Chung felt that he should have dinner first. He had been hungry for a long time. Chapter 761. When the little maid, Sally, saw Yang Chung suddenly coming down from the second floor, she was a little surprised because she didn't see Yang Chung come in at all. But she thought it was her oversight, so she didn't think too much about it. "Mr. Yang, would you like to have dinner?" Sally was as happy as a lark when she thought of the extra $1 million. When she saw Yang Chung, of course, she went up to him and greeted him gently. Yang Chung naturally pinched the white girl's butt. It was very meaty through the white stockings. "Bring out all the delicious food for me. I'm starving." Sally actually thought that Yang Chung had eaten, so she came up to him to get some benefits from Yang Chung. She didn't expect Yang Chung to really want to eat. After a slight daze, she hurried back to the kitchen. While Sally was preparing food, Yang Chung sat on the sofa next to the phone, picked up the phone, and dialed a number. After the call was connected, Maekton's puzzled voice came from the other side. "Your Majesty Pluto, why haven't we heard from you since that night? This number is in America?" Yang Chung nodded and said directly, "You don't need to know the process. I'm fine. I called you because I want you to help me find out information about a person. Tell me after dinner." Because that guy should have dealings with the Mossad. It shouldn't be difficult to find him. "Please tell me." "Robert Mueller, the director of the FBI?" Maekton asked hoarsely. "Your Majesty Pluto, are you launching an attack on America? Don't you usually not participate in international disputes? What are you thinking about?" "It's that old man who wants to see me more." I'm targeting him personally. Do you understand what I mean?" Maekton breathed a sigh of relief and then said with a smile, "It's my pleasure to help you. It really isn't difficult. I can confirm it. Please enjoy your dinner." Kristen happened to be busy with work and did not go home for dinner, so Yang Chung was happy to be alone. Although Sally was young, since she was the only maid in the household of a world-class heavenly queen, her culinary skills were naturally extraordinary. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been chosen out of countless competitors. In a short period of time, she had made a table full of food, from appetizers to desserts, for Yang Chung. Yang Chung ate 2 big steaks, half a roast chicken, a few Russian sausages, and drank half a bottle of champagne. During the meal, Sally carefully served them from the side. She sliced the meat, poured wine, and occasionally she would even try her best to bring her hands closer together so that the cleavage in front of her chest was especially deep, and the 2 large balls seemed to be on the verge of bursting out. After finishing a raisin cake, Yang Chung licked his fingers and asked with a faint smile, "Little Sally, do you really want to do something else with me?" When Sally heard this, a trace of awkwardness flashed across her face. She didn't expect Yang Chung to say it out so directly, but her moist eyes flashed with a trace of charm. If Mr. Yang wants, Sally is very willing. What if you don't pay? Pop. Sally was obviously stunned. Her eyes blinked, and after a while, she smiled embarrassedly and said, "No, there definitely will be." Yang Chung laughed heartily and patted the table. He said with some regret, "Unfortunately, it can't be as you wish. I still have to go out for a walk. The main thing is, I don't need a woman today. Let's talk about it next time." After that, he ignored Sally's disappointed look and walked back to the room on the second floor. In fact, Yang Qing only felt that as a woman, the touch of Sally's body was a little different from Xiao Qi-Qing's water snake-like softness, so he did not have much interest in it. It was just that it would hurt the little girl's heart, so it was better to give her some hope. At the same time, in Washington, D.C., the Hoover Building was like a fortress. This was the headquarters of the FBI. This building, which had been in use since the 1970s, always gave the world infinite imagination. But in fact, the people who sat in the building to work were not special. They received a civil servant salary ranging from $30,000 to $40,000 a year to more than $100,000 a year. They drove cheap Japanese cars to work, and occasionally, their bonuses would be deducted because they were late. As the current director, Robert was a relatively peaceful boss. His work was not hot, and he did not seek to be meritorious, but to not make mistakes. It was almost 10 o'clock at night, but in the Hoover Building, several important offices were still brightly lit. The people patrolling inside and outside the building were not ordinary soldiers, but elite agents with extraordinary skills. Of course, if you did not look carefully, you would not be able to see them at all. In a secret area of the building, in a secret base more than 30 meters underground, a man's crazy roar was heard. "Speak! Speak! I'm asking you guys." Two whole elite teams of SEALs. Even if they all died, they should at least shed some blood on the scene. In the big office of the underground base, under the incandescent light, Robert's bald head was shining, and his two hands were hitting the heavy table with all his might, making a deep sound. Several FBI commanders and military personnel stood 2 or 3 meters in front of Robert, their heads lowered, but they could not say a word. Just half an hour ago, after repeated confirmation from the frontline personnel of the Los Angeles Encirclement and Annihilation Plan, they sent a message. The target was missing, all the dispatch personnel were missing, and 4 Japanese reinforcements were missing. This result was something that no one had expected. They thought that Yang Chung would escape, and they thought that someone would mess up the plan, but they never thought that everyone would disappear. "Director, please calm down. Although we can't find anyone now, it doesn't mean that our plan has failed. Since that person no longer has any powerful abilities, even if he escapes, he won't be of any use to us." A commander analyzed. Robert glanced at him coldly. "Are you stupid? Do I need you to tell me that? The reason why I was so anxious to capture him was because if other countries knew that he had lost his abilities, all of them would fight over him like crazy. Do you know how much influence he has in the world? Whoever gets his hands on him will be an unimaginable fortune. But you bunch of idiots, you can't even capture a piece of trash who has lost his abilities?" Several commanders and officers showed displeasure in their eyes. After all, they did not personally go to the scene to command. Only 2 Blue Storm soldiers were sent. This method was a little too conservative in itself, but they could only accept it in silence, because this was a place where there was a clear hierarchy. Just as Robert was about to continue cursing, a technician ran in from the office door with a head full of cold sweat and said loudly, "Mr. Director, please forgive me for interrupting. Our system was suddenly attacked by an unknown hacker, and now the entire system is under someone else's control." "What?" This time, all the higher-ups in the office turned around abruptly and looked outside in disbelief. Robert's face darkened and his body trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, something really happened. Follow me out." After saying that, he led a group of subordinates and hurriedly ran to the underground surveillance center outside the office. The underground space was the size of a few basketball courts, and it was filled with high-tech electronic streamers. Countless screens flashed, and hundreds of technicians worked in shifts 24 hours a day. This was where the real brain of the FBI was located. The base, which was supposed to be orderly, was now in chaos, and everyone was extremely busy. The technicians typed furiously on their keyboards, but to no avail. On countless screens of various sizes, there were either evening entertainment programs for various countries or evening news for various countries. There were all sorts of strange languages, and it was so chaotic that the underground base had turned into a wet market. Are you all useless? How could the headquarters of the FBI be hacked? What secrets do we have in America? Robert was furious. This was like a slap to the face of the director of the FBI. He had always been sitting on a fishing platform, relying on not making any mistakes. If he wasn't absolutely confident, he would never make a move. But this time, he had the rare thought of striking first, but he actually went for wool and came home shorn. He was about to lose his reputation in front of everyone. Mr. Director, please calm down. The hacker who attacked us this time doesn't seem to be trying to steal our confidential documents. It's just that he wants to use our equipment to connect to some signals. Maybe he wants to spread some information to us through the platform, the technical director explained, bowing at the side. Robert snorted heavily. It's already been taken down, and you still have the face to say this to me? If there are hackers in the world who can break into our network, do you know what it means? Director, another technician suddenly ran up and said in a panic, we traced the source of the hacker. It seems, speak. It seems like what? It seems like Israel's Mossad did it. Robert and the others' faces turned green. Mossad, one of the 4 largest intelligence organizations in the world that had always been on good terms with the U.S., why would they suddenly risk breaking ties with the U.S. and attack the U.S.'s bottom line? Chapter 762. Before everyone could think about it, the screens in the entire base flashed and changed to the exact same video. When everyone saw the video signal, be it the technicians or the commanders, they were all dumbfounded. They completely forgot about their work and even forgot to breathe. The entire place was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Be gentle, baby. Oh, you're hurting me. My dear mother, you're getting more and more slutty, just like a sow in heat. Isn't it all because of you, little rascal? Oh. On the screen was a softly lit and beautifully decorated hall. On the sofa in the hall, there was a mature and beautiful Caucasian lady in her 40s and a young Caucasian man in his 20s. They were entangled together. Everyone could clearly hear the relationship between the man and the woman. Because of this, even in the eyes of the open-minded Americans, this was too shocking. Among these people, some were drooling, while some were too embarrassed to look at it. But they couldn't help but look. The one who was the palest, to the point that he couldn't even stand properly, was the bureau chief, Robert. Gradually, a few subordinates who were more familiar with Robert finally realized who the mother and son on the screen were. Bureau chief. You're. When one of the commanders came back to his senses and said a few words, everyone else suddenly woke up. Robert's eyes were lifeless, and he stood rooted to the ground. He couldn't sense anything outside. In his eyes, other than the crazy mother and son on the countless screens, there was nothing else. Seeing the situation on the command platform, some of the technicians who were closer also heard the clues and realized that the ridiculous mother and son were the family members of the bureau chief. The technical staff who were watching the show were taken aback by this black and erotic scene. Many people who knew Robert knew that the mother and son were not his biological son. It was because after Robert's ex-wife divorced him, Robert raised his son, and the beautiful woman was the stepmother that Robert had brought home to take care of his son after getting married 2 years ago. However, even if they weren't related by blood, it was bad enough that such a family scandal appeared, and it was even broadcasted in front of all the core members of the FBI. Naturally, Robert couldn't kill all of them and seal the information. It was precisely because he couldn't stop all of this that he became dazed and stood there motionlessly. At this moment, the mother and son on the screen began to talk in a muffled voice again. What do you think? Am I not much stronger than my father? Oh, honey, please don't mention your father in front of me. That man hasn't acted like a man for more than a year. What a bummer. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have married him. It turns out that the director of the FBI doesn't have much money. That won't do. If you don't marry my father, how can I know a sow like you? You're so annoying. Don't call me a sow. The mature woman smiled, but she didn't mean to blame him at all. Instead, she enjoyed being called that by her son who had no blood relationship with her. Hearing this, all the staff members in the base had strange expressions on their faces. Many of them were trying their best not to laugh out loud. Even the higher-ups pretended nothing was wrong. They turned their heads away and stayed a little further away. However, the twitching muscles on their faces clearly revealed the uneasiness in their hearts. Robert's hands held onto the metal railing. His chubby face had already turned red, and his eyes were bloodshot. He suddenly roared crazily, "Smash it! Smash it! Smash all of these monitors!" Seeing that he was so agitated, an assistant hurried forward and held his shoulder worriedly. "Director, don't be like this. We can't mess up. Get lost." Robert was like a mad beast. He quickly ran down the stage and rushed to the nearest monitor. He picked up a stool and smashed it. Bang! TSK Lazara! Sparks flew, and one of the monitors was smashed just like that. "Stop the director. He's out of control." Seeing this, an officer hurriedly commanded the people below to stop Robert. They couldn't destroy the base because of him. After all, the information connected to these screens was not ordinary. A few strong agents rushed forward to stop Robert. At this critical moment, they couldn't care less about their status. They had to protect the base first. "Let go of me! Let go of me! You bastards! Do you want breakfast? I'm Robert Mueller. I'm your immediate superior." Robert's chubby body struggled violently, but he couldn't win against these strong young agents. In the end, he could only pant like a drowning dog. A few commanders walked down the stage and surrounded Robert. They looked at their superior with a troubled expression. "Director, we know that this is a big blow to you, but please look at the big picture. This isn't the time to care about personal problems. We have to figure out why Mossad attacked us. Then we can calculate the losses and carry out defense and fight," an officer said. But Robert turned a deaf ear to her. He just shook his head and muttered, "That's not true. That's not true. How could they do this to me? I raised that child. How could he do this to me? His father." At the emotional part, Robert couldn't help but flatten his face and shed tears. Many of the subordinates around him felt pity for him. Although such a family scandal had doomed Robert to no longer be the director, and he would have to step down from his high position. But from the perspective of a father, a husband, and a man, it was too cruel to let him see such a scene. It was worse than killing him. Just when everyone was silent, the alarm in the entire base suddenly sounded. Bang, bang. An ear-piercing sound traveled into everyone's ears. The alarm lights on the walls flickered rapidly. "What's going on? SH*T. Is it an enemy invasion?" They were just thinking about how to deal with the attack of the hackers, and now the headquarters was invaded. Everyone was caught off guard. Without waiting for the special agents and officers to begin their defensive work, everyone suddenly heard a rumbling sound coming from the northern wall of the base. Bang! A heavy and muffled explosion sound rang out, and a huge hole was blasted open on the north side of the huge wall. Among the flying rocks, a figure stepped on the messy debris on the ground. He waved his hand to disperse the smoke and dust in front of him, and slowly walked in the direction of everyone. When the figure gradually became clear, everyone saw that it was an average-looking Asian man in casual clothes. Most of the people were shocked and confused, but a few of the higher-ups showed a look of horror. Their eyes were fixed on him, and they couldn't move even half a step. "Hades, Pluto, how is it possible he's really fine?" The person was, of course, Yang Chung, who slowly floated over from Los Angeles. Of course, the speed at which he floated was actually a little shocking in the eyes of ordinary people. Yang Chen nodded in satisfaction as he watched the battle between the mother and son played out on the screens of the entire underground base. Maekton subordinates from Mossad were doing quite well. Taking over the FBI's network didn't take up too much time. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Physical torture wasn't much, but the scars left on the soul were the most devastating. Since Robert, the director, had decided to plot against him and try to hit him when he was down, then he couldn't lose to him no matter what. Therefore, when Maekdon told him that Robert's second wife had an affair with his son, Yangcheng didn't hesitate to ask the Zero assassins near Washington to install the cameras. As for capturing this scene, they could easily do it with some drugs. Leisurely strolling to a place not far from Robert and the others, Yangcheng smiled and greeted them. "I'm sorry, I think you're already trying to find me. I could have come earlier, but because I ate dinner, I was delayed. But before I came, the gift was delivered. How is it? Does everyone like it?" As Yangcheng spoke, he gestured with his lips, indicating the exciting fight on the screen. Robert, who was tightly held by the agents, roared and wanted to pounce on Yangcheng. "You devil! Devil! How could you do such an ugly thing?" Yangcheng laughed. Director Robert doesn't seem to be very accepting of his wife and son's action movie. Come to think of it, even I'm a little envious of such a hot wife. It's a pity I'm on a tight schedule, or else I wouldn't mind going to your house personally to talk to your wife about her life ideals. Shut up! Shut up! Robert's face twitched, and he yelled at the agents. What are you waiting for? Kill him! Kill him! However, no one responded to his order. All the staff and agents in charge of security subconsciously shrank in place, not daring to move. What kind of joke was this? He single-handedly charged into the underground base of the headquarters, and he didn't even walk in through the door. Instead, he forcefully smashed through more than 10 layers of thick alloy steel, broke through the wall, and swaggered in. Was he still human? Was such an enemy someone of their level could touch? It was already impressive enough that he didn't run away. After realizing this, Robert calmed down a little, and his face was ashen. He turned and asked in a hoarse voice, You didn't lose your ability? Yangcheng shrugged. Are you disappointed? Why? General Prandelli has no reason to lie to me. I heard him say with my own ears that you lost your cultivation. He even specifically told you to be careful. Robert asked unwillingly. Yangcheng was a little embarrassed. You have to ask him. How would I know why he said that? I never said that I lost my ability to kill. Robert smiled sadly. So, Seidel and Stark, as well as all the SEALs, are no longer in this world. Yangcheng looked around and smiled. The people from Blue Storm don't seem to be here. Why don't you call all the people from Blue Storm here? I'm the only one here anyway. Your proud trump card troops shouldn't be afraid, right? I don't mind waiting a little longer. Seeing Yangcheng's harmless smile, everyone shuddered. Was this man coming to the FBI for a bloody massacre tonight? Chapter 763. Seeing that everyone was just looking at him nervously, as if they were facing a formidable enemy, but not reacting at all, Yangcheng frowned and said a little impatiently, This doesn't seem to be the time to be in a daze. Or could it be that my English pronunciation isn't up to par and you guys can't understand me? At this time, Robert finally calmed down. He tried his best not to look at the two figures still squirming on the countless screens and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty Pluto, can you be lenient with us for offending you this time? An existence as high and mighty as you should have a heart wider than the sea. Since the people that were sent to offend you are all dead, can you let everyone here go? Yangcheng smiled. That's easy for you to say. If you want to catch me and harm me, you can think of ways to kill me. But when I'm here to collect my debt, you want me to forgive everything. Don't you think this is as funny as a children's fairy tale? Your Majesty, you should know very well that this is the FBI, one of the most powerful places in Marika. If you really start a massacre here or completely fall out with us, I think no matter how powerful you are, you won't get any benefits. An officer said loudly and solemnly. Yangcheng didn't even look at him and swung his left hand behind him. Bang, bang, bang. Countless sounds of explosions could be heard as high-voltage electric currents wreaked havoc. Hundreds of large computers were twisted, broken, and shattered by an inexplicable force. Flames shot out in all directions, and the high-burning blue flames turned these cutting-edge technological products into a pile of wreckage and scrap metal. The flames caused by the explosion dyed the entire underground base in a layer of red light. The white lights were instantly swallowed up, and the air was filled with the smell of burning metal and plastic. In just a few seconds, the entire underground base was blasted open because of the explosion of a large number of instruments. A long tunnel of charred flames was blasted open. Yang Chung retracted his hand and put it in his pants pocket. He said calmly, "If I hear any more nonsense, the next time, I'll be aiming at you guys and not the machines." Some of the pure, technical personnel present were already scared silly, and some of them didn't even realize that they had wet their pants. These special agents and soldiers were all stunned by the terrifying power. They didn't know whether to move forward or retreat. They could only stand there, trembling. As the director, Robert had completely lost his mind at this moment. His hatred for Yang Chung had reached the extreme, but he was powerless to resist. He was also afraid of being killed, so his face was filled with helplessness. After a full half a minute of silence, a tall, young black commander in a suit stepped forward and asked with a solemn expression, "Your Excellency, it's our fault. We just want to ask Your Excellency, what can we do to appease your anger? If you really want to call all the people of Blue Storm here for Your Excellency to slaughter, this is something we can't accept, because we will lose an important fighting force on the international stage. It's true that we can't fight against an existence like you, but as far as I know, the gods can't break the structure of the world at will. Since that's the case, please come up with a proposal that both parties can accept. We're willing to compensate you with something that shows our sincerity." Yang Chung asked expressionlessly, "What's your name?" "Mario Balotelli, the commander-in-chief of the FBI's anti-terrorism department," the black man said proudly. Yang Chung smiled with interest. "Aren't you afraid that you'll die a horrible death by talking to me first?" "Yes, but if we don't talk, we'll all die." Balotelli's face was solemn. Yang Chung pondered for a moment. "All right, then I'll give you a chance to salvage the situation. Actually, the most important person who sent me here this time is your director, Robert. The other people who died will be buried with him. Since you're so brave, then I have to give your bravery some respect." As Yang Chung spoke, his eyes fell on the holster on Balotelli's waist. In the blink of an eye, the silver Desert Eagle was pulled out of the holster and flew into Balotelli's hand. This move didn't surprise many people. After all, the U.S. military's Blue Storm had many people with special abilities, and most people had seen all kinds of special abilities. Balotelli held the heavy gun and asked in confusion, "Your Majesty Pluto, what's the meaning of this?" "Kill him," Yang Chung said straightforwardly. Balotelli was stunned, and the other people present also suddenly realized something. Yang Chung's intention was also very simple. He didn't want to do it, but let Robert's subordinates do it. This would make Robert suffer 100 times more than dying in his own hands. Balotelli turned his head with difficulty and looked at Robert, whose eyes were filled with hesitation and fear. He was obviously hesitating. Yang Chung said, "You have two choices now. 1, shoot him, then all of you will be fine. After all, it's not you who want to harm me. 2, if you don't shoot, then I'll do it. But since you're so united, then I'll send all of you to hell with Robert." Hearing this, an officer who was already pale with fear rushed forward and reached out to grab the gun in Balotelli's hand. "Give it to me, you idiot. If you don't shoot, we'll all die." Balotelli gripped the gun tightly, gritted his teeth, and refused to give it to Robert. The other commanders and technicians on the side were anxious. Although they were a little afraid of Robert, their own lives were more important than that. Besides, they couldn't just become one person and then let him destroy the entire base. Robert was shocked and angry at the same time. He hissed, "Bastard! How dare you listen to him and want to kill me? Do you still respect me as the director?" "Balotelli, aim your guns at that guy. Do we still need to be afraid of him in our base? He's not the only god in the world. If he makes too much noise, someone will naturally come to take care of him." Before Robert could finish speaking, Balotelli, who had been standing with all his might, suddenly raised his gun, aimed it at Robert's chest, and pulled the trigger. Bang! After a burst of smoke, there was a big bloody hole in Robert's chest. Robert looked at his subordinate in disbelief. He raised a trembling hand and wanted to say something, but as his life rapidly flowed away, he knelt weakly on the ground, unable to open his mouth. In the end, He could only dissipate the last bit of his life with his eyes wide open. The dark red blood spread from the ground, and the atmosphere at the scene seemed to freeze at this moment. Some people could even hear the sound of saliva being swallowed. At this time, Balotelli slowly walked in front of the corpse and stepped on Robert's head. His eyes were burning, and he said in a low voice, "We are your subordinates, but we are not your slaves, bastard. It's always been you." Many of the officials at the side who heard this felt the complicated expressions on the ground and sighed. Perhaps in many people's hearts, under the brutal oppression, there were too many accumulated helplessness. Yang Chung clapped his hands and walked forward with a smile on his face. He patted Balotelli's shoulder as if they were old friends. "This time, you saved everyone here, and you also saved the FBI headquarters. You are a big hero. If you get promoted and become a director, don't be like this guy Robert, looking for trouble from me for no reason." Balotelli turned around in shock and looked at Yang Chung, who had a meaningful look on his face. Only then did he realize that Yang Chung had actually done him a big favor. But this favor was a little too strange. But indeed, there were many people around, especially the ordinary technical staff, who looked at him with grateful eyes. If he hadn't taken the initiative to negotiate and killed Robert, they might have been buried here. Yang Chung ignored the strange look of the big black man. Suddenly, in front of everyone, he squatted down and turned Robert's body over. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, Yang Chung put his hand into Robert's suit pocket as if he was searching for something. When he pulled his hand out, Yang Chung was already holding a copper-yellow round pocket watch. Many people who were close to Robert knew that this was Robert's favorite little item. However, they never expected that it would be taken away after his death. Seeing everyone looking at him with strange eyes, Yang Chung smiled a little embarrassedly. "Look at you guys, that's not good. I'm not greedy. Do I look like the kind of person who won't even let go of a dead person's belongings? We are all people with status. How could we do such immoral things? Especially in front of our friendly friends from the FBI. The main point is that the Porsche GT that I borrowed from that woman, Kristen, was lost because of those two guys for Blue Storm. I have to get some interest back. Otherwise, I would be too heartless. This pocket watch, although it looks a little old, it's still a mechanical watch, so it should be worth some money, hee." Everyone at the side forced a stiff smile, and their eyes were full of understanding. Yang Chung touched the watch, but before he stood up, he reached into Robert's other pocket and pulled something out. It was a pack of Marlboro cigarettes. "Shit." Yang Chung cursed and threw the cigarette on the ground. He squatted there and muttered, "A dignified FBI director smokes cigarettes that are not much different from my $2 cigarettes. So stingy, why didn't he put his wallet in his pocket? What a loss." Chapter 764. Immediately, the faces of the people who heard this darkened. If it wasn't for the fact that they were afraid that Yang Chung would kill again due to his mood swings, they would have glared at Yang Chung with disdain. Putting the pocket watch in his shirt pocket, Yang Chung slowly stood up, looked around, and said with a smile, "Okay, it's done. I didn't do it. I think I've cleared up this issue. I'm still investigating who did it, and there will be a result in the future. As for personal grudges, I'm also satisfied with this result. It's getting late, so everyone should get off work and go home to sleep. Eating supper is easy to gain weight, especially for women. Staying up late will cause wrinkles." After saying that, Yang Chung turned around and walked toward the big hole he had made when he came. After taking a few steps, his figure gradually became blurry in the air, and eventually he disappeared without a trace. Everyone in the FBI base let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the devastated base that had been destroyed overnight, they couldn't feel the slightest bit of anger except for a trace of coldness in their hearts. At this time, on the other side of the world, in a hidden mansion of the Ning family outside the city in Beijing, a large truck was parked outside the gate of the mansion, and several bodyguards wearing sunglasses were patrolling back and forth under the sun, not allowing any random people to get close to the area. In the depths of the mansion, in a quiet and simple room, the temperature seemed to be dozens of degrees lower than outside. Luo Tsueshan, who had already washed up and changed into a clean set of home clothes, was sitting on a bench. She held a cup of red ginseng tea in her hand, sipping it carefully without any expression on her face. And on a chair diagonally to the right of Luo Tsuishan, cripple, who had also washed up and changed into a neat set of clothes, looked around curiously. His face was a little nervous, and he kept rubbing his thighs with his hands, showing the nervousness in his heart. Finally, Cripple couldn't stand the silence and asked with an awkward smile, "Hey, who were those people who captured us? Do you know him?" Luo Tsuishan raised her head and looked at the handsome young man. Looking at his clear and uneasy eyes, she smiled for the first time. "Are you afraid?" "Afraid? What a joke." Cripple pretended to be impressive. "Back then, I wasn't afraid even when I was chased by a dozen stray dogs. If I'm not afraid of mad dogs, why would I be afraid of humans?" Luo Tsuishan smiled bitterly. A mad dog can always be chased away by an even crazier method. But when a man really goes crazy, he might not be able to be controlled. Cripple looked at the woman strangely. "Hey, what's wrong with you? You look as if your parents have died. It's not like they're going to shoot us. There's no need to be so miserable, is there?" At this moment, the carved wooden door was pushed open from the outside. A handsome middle-aged man in a white shirt, with 2 bodyguards in suits and leather shoes, walked in from the outside. Luo Tsuishan looked over and met the eyes of the man in white. Their eyes were filled with indescribable, complicated emotions. When Cripple saw the person who came, a glimmer flashed across his eyes, but it disappeared in a flash. "You must hate me for bringing you back to Beijing like this." Ning Guangyao spoke first in a regretful tone. Luo Tsuishan smiled bitterly. "I'm already very satisfied that you're still willing to see me at such a time." Ning Guangyao was silent and sighed. "You shouldn't have provoked Yang Cheng." Luo Tsuishan snorted coldly and laughed sarcastically. "You should have just said that I shouldn't have made a move on that little slut. It would have been more pleasing to my ears." "You." Ning Guangyao frowned and looked like he couldn't bear it. "How could you call her that? After all, she's my flesh and blood, and also Guodong's blood-related younger sister." "Flesh and blood." Luo Tsuishan stood up abruptly and laughed shrilly. "That's your flesh and blood. What does that have to do with me? In my opinion, she's the vile spawn of you and that slut Xue Zijing. Back then, Xue Zijing was an extremely shameless bitch. If it wasn't for that old man Lin Jigua's protection, I would have crushed her into pieces long ago. How could I have allowed her to grow to this day?" Ning Guangyao didn't get angry this time. He only said calmly, "Tsuishan, it seems like you're really going to tear everything apart with me." "That's right." There were tears in Luo Tsuishan's eyes, but her expression was hysterical. "Because I know that if I don't finish what I want to say now, I won't have the chance to talk about my pain in front of you anymore. After decades of being husband and wife, I didn't expect this day to come." Ning Guangyao laughed self-mockingly. "If only you could bear with it all the time. Even if we have to put on an act, even if we lie to each other, it would be more acceptable than the cruelty of reality." Luo Tsuishan swallowed her throat and bit her lips to stop her tears. "I knew it. You've always known what kind of woman I am. You've always known what I've done behind your back. Do you know that sometimes I even think that if you tear apart my disguise one day, I won't hate you? Because at least I can face you with the real me. But now it's all too late." The woman's voice was a little choked at the end. It was as sorrowful as a white crane crying blood. Ning Guangyao turned around and raised his head to take a breath. "I know that I've let you down a lot. So, I've never cared about you doing things that I don't think are good. Unfortunately, I didn't expect you to end up like this. It's my negligence. But it's also because you don't know your limits. Since things have come to this, I think you know that I have no other choice." Luo Tsuishan sneered. She said mockingly, "Why? Are you afraid that your dirty linen will be spread out? Are you afraid that your prime minister's position will be unstable? So, you want to kill me secretly? Or, because I made you a cuckold, it's hard for you to accept it. So, you don't want to see a broken flower like me anymore?" Ning Guangyao didn't get angry. Instead, he said calmly, "You're a high-ranking government official after all. It's already a headache for you to disappear for so many days. If you suddenly die for no reason, there will be too many suspicious points. Then what do you want? I've asked someone to bring a type of injection drug. It can disguise a person's death as a result of heart failure, which is equivalent to sudden death. Ning Guangyao said calmly, as if the person who died had nothing to do with him. I'll explain to the public that, as a national civil servant and the Prime Minister's wife, you fell ill from overwork and died suddenly when you were inspecting the work outside. You went missing these days because we wanted to secretly carry out a rescue, but in the end, we didn't succeed. Hearing this, Luo Tsuishan's eyes were filled with darkness. She took 2 steps back weakly and smiled sadly. I didn't expect, after being married for so many years, in the end, you can say it so easily when you want to kill me. You don't even frown. Good. You're indeed the head of the Ning family. You're looking at the big picture, aren't you? Hee, if I die because of overwork, not only will there be no suspicious points, but I'll also bring honor to the government and the Ning family. Even if I die, you can use me as a tool to win the hearts of the people. Haha, what a good plan. Ning Guangyao closed his eyes and didn't look at Luo Tsuishan. This drug may cause you a lot of pain during the process of stopping your heart. I also hope that you can die peacefully, but in order to make the doctor not see any suspicious points, I have no choice. Tsuishan, don't worry and go. I promise you, I'll protect Guodong, even if I have to risk my life. Of course you'll protect him, not because you love him, but because you need a son to inherit the Ning family's business. Luo Tsuishan looked at the man in front of her with disdain. I've been thinking, if Xue Zijing didn't give birth to a daughter, but a son, would you have given birth to a son? Would you have never thought of handing over the Ning family to Guodong at all? In your heart, no matter how much I give, no matter how hard I work, my mother and I can't compare to that bitch and that little bitch in your heart, right? Ning Guangyao chose to be silent and didn't answer. Luo Tsuishan suddenly showed a touch of ruthlessness and smiled grimly. Ning Guangyao, since I have to die today, I might as well tell you a secret to let you know how stupid you are. Chapter 765. Ning Guangyao furrowed his brows. What secret? Back then, Xue Zijing didn't die of blood cancer. What? Ning Guangyao turned around abruptly and glared at Luo Tsuishan like a ferocious tiger. You mean? That's right. Luo Tsuishan laughed smugly. You didn't expect this, did you? I was the one who bribed the doctor, faked her illness, and poisoned her to death. A myriad of emotions flashed across Ning Guangyao's face. He raised his trembling hand and wanted to slap this woman. But in the end, he suppressed his anger and put down his hand heavily. He said coldly, "You evil woman. Zijing always gave in to you back then. She never had the slightest thought of competing with you. I was the one who took the initiative to find her in Zhonghai. Why do you have to be so ruthless? Why? Vicious? Yes, I am vicious. Because if I can't have it, no one else can." Luo Tsuishan said firmly, refusing to back down. Ning Guangyao nodded. Okay, it's all in the past, all in the past. I'll give you a few minutes to prepare yourself. Later, I'll get someone to send the medicine in, and you'll have to drink it yourself. As he said this, Ning Guangyao's gaze locked onto Cripple, who was as silent as a cicada in winter. He said coldly, "Since this cripple has been taking care of you for the past few days, when you die, let him take the medicine as well. Let him accompany you on your way to the netherworld. If he doesn't take it, I'll get someone to get rid of him." Oomph. After saying this, Ning Guangyao's face darkened. He turned around and left the room with his 2 bodyguards. When the door closed, Luo Tsuishan seemed to have lost all her strength. Her body went limp and she sat back on the chair. She stared at the door in a daze, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I didn't expect you to be the wife of our premier Huaxia. I'm not dreaming, am I?" Cripple muttered. Luo Tsuishan snorted softly. "Premier's wife? What's the use? He's just a pitiful wretch who can't even obtain the simplest happiness." Cripple looked worried and sighed. "Actually, what you said at the end was to anger him, right?" Luo Tsuishan turned to look at Cripple blankly. "What did you say?" "I don't know who you're talking about, but I don't think you intentionally bribed a doctor to poison that woman, Xue Zijing," Cripple said in a low voice. A strange look flashed across Luo Suishan's eyes. How did you know? I guessed. Cripple smiled with flagging interest. I can see that even though you sound so fierce, you actually care a lot about your husband. You said those words on purpose to make him think that you're an evil woman who deserves to die. That way, he wouldn't feel too bad when he sends someone to kill you. He wouldn't feel too much pain and blame himself. Luo Sushan opened her mouth and revealed a trace of emotion. Then, she smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that I would meet someone who truly understands me when I'm about to die. Unfortunately, that person didn't understand me for most of his life. There's no point in saying all this. Didn't you hear what the premier said? He wants us all to die. I didn't live my life in vain. I'm actually going to die with the premier's wife. Cripple revealed a hearty smile, as though he was comforting himself. Luo Tsueshan looked at him meaningfully. Actually, you have a chance to live? Huh? Cripple was puzzled. Will the premier change his decision? Luo Tsueshan shook her head. I'm a woman who's going to die. That's because I can no longer be the mistress of the Ning family. My existence will put the Ning family in a dangerous position. Ning Guangyao will only be able to face the other families calmly if I'm dead. But you're different. At the end of the day, you're just an insignificant person. If you were of any use to him, Ning Guangyao wouldn't have killed you because your death was just a way for him to vent his anger. Cripple was confused. He asked in a daze, then how can I be of use? I'm just a beggar with no parents and no culture. I'm also not an expert in fighting. Luo Tsueshan lowered her eyebrows and pondered for a moment. Then, she waved at Cripple and moved his ear closer. She whispered something in his ear. Cripple's eyes widened. Are you serious? Isn't this too absurd? If this gets out, wouldn't it be? As long as you say it the way I told you, Ning Guangyao will believe you. As long as you have this secret, he won't kill you for no reason. Instead, he'll protect you so that you won't tell the other families, Luo Tsueshan said. Cripple looked at Luo Tsueshan with a complicated gaze and couldn't help but ask, Why are you so good to me? If you tell Premier Ning the secret personally, he might have a chance to let you go. Luo Tsueshan shook her head and smiled gently. There was an indescribable gentleness in her smile. That won't happen. Since he secretly captured me and brought me back to Beijing and didn't send me back to the Ning family, he's already determined to kill me. The reason why I'm telling you this is because even though I've lived a life of luxury since I was young, I've only felt warmth when I was wandering the streets with you. I've always been the one taking care of others, but no one has ever taken care of me sincerely. I want to do something for you before I die. I know that you're a smart child. If you grasp the opportunity well, you won't just be a beggar. A trace of disappointment flashed through Cripple's eyes. Do you think I'm a child? Luo Tsueshan was stunned. Then, she thought of something and blushed unconsciously. She turned her head away unnaturally and said in a faint voice, You're younger than my son, so of course you're a child. Cripple smiled bitterly. That's true. I'm overthinking it. A trace of unwillingness flashed through Luo Tsueshan's eyes. She pursed her lips and said, If you could survive, you must live well. Strive to return to school and learn more skills. Don't live that kind of life of wandering and begging anymore. If there's a chance, find a better doctor and see if your foot can be cured. I believe that with how advanced medicine is now, there will always be a way. Cripple nodded silently, but he still looked downcast. Luo Tsueshan secretly looked at him for a while. Then, she bit her lower lip and closed her eyes reluctantly. Not long after, two men in white coats walked into the room and coldly placed 2 bottles of medicine on the table. Then, they stood at the door, looking like they were waiting for the 2 of them to drink it themselves. Luo Tsueshan didn't hesitate. She picked up one of the bottles and pulled out the cork. Then, she said to the 2 men at the door, Go, and tell Premier Ning that this young man knows a secret that I told him. That secret will definitely make him choose to let this young man go. I alone will be enough to kill the person. After saying that, Luo Tsueshan picked up the bottle and drank it in one gulp. Half a lifetime of glory and splendor, like fine black hair in the morning and snow in the evening. About 10 minutes later, the door to the room opened again. Cripple limped out of the room and was handed over to a bodyguard by the two men in white coats. Then, the two men in white coats went into the room to clean up the rest of the situation. Cripple glanced back at the woman who was lying on the ground in the room and couldn't get up again. An unfathomable sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Damn beggar. What are you looking at? Let's go." The bodyguard slapped Cripple's head hard and shouted. Cripple quickly bowed his head and apologized. With a pitiful expression, he carefully followed the bodyguard to see Ning Guangyao. The sun was still shining brightly on the ground. Wherever Cripple walked, a slanted shadow was cast. At the same time, it was still night on the other side of the ocean in Los Angeles. The sky was dark. A few dark clouds had gathered in the sky, and the wind had begun to blow fiercely. Because it was early in the morning, there weren't many cars, so it was particularly cold and desolate. A man's figure appeared in front of a mansion in Beverly Hills. It was Yang Chung, who had returned from Washington. Looking up at the thick clouds in the sky, Yang Chung swallowed his saliva and muttered to himself, "Damn it, it can't be. I just used some of my abilities to go back and forth from Los Angeles and Washington. Don't tell me that there will be another lightning tribulation." Although he survived the Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder, Yang Chung wasn't really afraid of the 9 Heavenly Thunder tribulation. The first tribulation was already so terrifying. Who knew how powerful the Shangqing and Yu Qing Heavenly Thunder would be? Yang Chung scratched his head. Although it was embarrassing to say that he had a phobia of lightning, it was better than being struck to death by lightning again. Yang Chung didn't believe that he would be so lucky every time and that the endless resolve restoration scripture could save him every time. Besides, he didn't lack cultivation, so why was he in a hurry to go through the tribulation? It seemed like he would have to drive and fly in the future. For the sake of the lifelong happiness of so many women, he had to save his life. At this moment, a familiar seductive voice came from the balcony on the second floor of the mansion. "Hee, I got the news that you killed Blue Storm and Takamagara, but I didn't believe it. Now I can see that you're really good at acting. You've even fooled me in Neptune. It seems that your cultivation is not gone, but it has reached a realm that we can't understand." Chapter 766. Kristen held a glass of white wine in her hand and leaned against the carved white pillar railing. Her translucent silk nightgown clung to her graceful body in the wind, outlining her round breasts and perky buttocks. Her gorgeous face seemed to be the most violent pink poison in the world at this moment. Yang Chung raised his head. His lower abdomen was a little hot after just one glance. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have many feelings for women after spending the whole afternoon on that water snake, Xiao Qi-Ching, 3 times. But the strong female hormones of this international diva were still irresistible. Yang Chung pretended to cough and said, "You didn't ask me, and I didn't say that I lost my cultivation, so it's not fake." Kristen snorted and took a sip of wine. She smiled and said, "Hey, tell me the truth. What's going on with you? Why can't I feel any energy fluctuations in your body?" Yang Chung curled his lips. "If I knew, I wouldn't mind telling you. But I really don't know. Every ability I use now is used naturally. There's no order to it. Let me put it this way. In the past, I had to use the true yuan in my body. But now, I can't feel any true yuan in my meridians and even in my dantian. It's empty. I don't know what form the endless resolve restoration scripture exists in. I can't see it, but I can feel it. Other than the strength of my body, I don't know why I can do those things." Kristen was silent for a while in doubt. She shook her head. Her golden hair fluttered in the wind. "Strange. Your condition doesn't seem like the tribulation stage that I know. Even the tribulation stage is mainly based on true yuan. I've never heard of anyone without true yuan in their meridians." At this moment, several dark clouds in the sky collided with each other. Thunder roared and blue and yellow lightning flashed. Yang Chung sucked in a breath of cold air. His expression was a little unnatural. Noticing this scene, Kristen couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, I didn't expect the fearless Pluto to turn pale at the sight of lightning." Yang Chung rolled his eyes. "Do you think being struck by lightning is that easy?" Christine smiled wickedly and suddenly threw the glass in her hand to the lawn downstairs. Then, she leaped lightly and landed on the ground from the second floor. In the process of falling, because she was wearing a light nightgown, when it was lifted in the air, two snow-white, smooth and slender jade legs were revealed, and at the center of her thighs, there was actually a bright red thong. Yang Cheng's eyes were a little dazed. Although it was just a glimpse, he could clearly see that it was just a thin red line embedded in a delicate and alluring field of flowers. Kristen stroked her hair and walked forward. Suddenly, she opened her arms and hooked them around Yang Cheng's neck. Her fragrant body pressed closely against Yang Cheng. She smiled charmingly and said, "Dear Yang Cheng, your eyes tell me that you're moved." Yang Cheng pretended not to hear and turned his head away. However, his Adam's apple was squirming. Kristen blew a breath of hot air into Yang Cheng's ear. It was wet and ticklish. "Am I beautiful down there?" "I didn't see it," Yang Cheng said stubbornly. "I didn't even say what's down there. Why do you say you didn't see it?" Kristen said mischievously. Yang Cheng was speechless. He struggled for a while, but Kristen refused to let go. He could only say, "It's late. Aren't you tired after recording all day?" Kristen was even more enchanting. She parted her lips seductively, and one of her fair hands moved down from Yang Cheng's neck to his chest before it gradually extended to the middle of Yang Cheng's crotch. Yang Cheng felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't make up his mind to dodge. That was until that hand tightly covered his private parts, and the woman slowly grabbed it. Yang Cheng felt so comfortable that he quivered all over. It was as if an indescribable feeling had spread from his spine to his entire body. Even his brain had been blown by a cool breeze. "Dear, you're so hard here that it's about to explode. It seems like you can't ignore my attraction to you in the future," Kristen said softly. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. It was impossible for a normal man not to feel anything. Kristen saw that Yang Cheng wasn't moving, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of excitement. Her moist red lips parted slightly, and she raised her head and moved closer to Yang Cheng. The tip of her pink tongue could be faintly seen in her sandalwood mouth. Her starry eyes were filled with a trace of desire. If an ordinary person was faced with such a scene, they would either kiss it crazily and use all their strength to take it, or fall to the ground with a nosebleed. However, after a moment of strong impulse, Yang Cheng forcibly suppressed the raging flames, gritted his teeth, and said, "Aphrodite, don't do stupid things anymore." Hearing this name, Kristen's delicate body suddenly trembled. She opened her eyes and looked at Yang Cheng with a sad face. She smiled palely. "How can you be so cruel?" Yang Cheng gently pulled the woman's hands away, took a step back, and said gently with clear eyes, "Don't be so obsessed. If you're just Kristen, then I don't care if you're an international diva or a superstar. It doesn't matter if you're just a friend or acquaintance of mine. If you want to have a relationship with me, I can't ask for more. I admit that I like your youthful body very much. You're very charming. But your soul is Aphrodite, you're not Kristen. You're just a woman who has purely pinned her feelings on me and foolishly wants everything that doesn't exist in the first place. If I have a relationship with you regardless of all this, I'm taking advantage of your feelings for others to possess you. You're a friend I can trust. I don't want to be so cruel to you. I don't want you to live in a self-deceiving lie. So I can't satisfy your absurd idea. Do you understand?" Kristen's eyes were filled with tears, and her beautiful face was like a dewy lily in full bloom in the night. She chuckled self-deprecatingly. "You're just like him. No wonder you're the one he chose to inherit the Godhead. Why did he always consider so many things? Just take it that I'm stupid. You could just be a bad guy for once. What's wrong with that? Why must you be so cruel to wake me up?" Yang Cheng shook his head. "Because I don't want to lose you as a friend. If I have sex with you, our relationship will become different." Kristen turned her head away and took a deep breath. "Although Ares, Apollo, Diana, and Neptune all call you Hades, you're still a god. But I know your body, your soul, has always been Yang Cheng. It has never changed. You are still you. You're not the Hades in my memories. But how can I accept that Hades is no longer here? How can he just leave like that without a shred of nostalgia?" Yang Cheng sighed softly. "You can't say that completely. Since he asked me to take care of you when I need it before he left, it must be because you have a special place in his heart. Then why didn't he live to take care of me? Kristen suddenly turned around and screamed. He's a selfish coward. Yang Chung was stunned and couldn't say a word. Kristen seemed to realize that she had lost her composure. She touched her forehead and wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. She forced a smile and said, "I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with you. I shouldn't have vented my anger on you. I just think that person is too arrogant. Unless Hong Meng is courting death and starts another war, I don't need anyone to take care of me. Maybe. Actually, it's fine. Anyway, there are many women who get angry at me." Yang Chung laughed at himself. Kristen giggled. "But to be honest, I was worried to death before. I'm really happy to know that you didn't lose your cultivation. That way, I don't have to worry too much." Yang Chung was surprised. He didn't expect this crazy woman to be worried about him behind his back. He couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. Kristen suddenly blinked playfully. "Yang Chung, to be honest, you're actually very interested in my body, aren't you?" Yang Chung rubbed his nose and acquiesced. It would be strange if he wasn't envious. Kristen giggled and said, "Actually, if you really want, you can try to make me fall in love with you. That way, it won't be using someone else to possess me, right?" Looking at the woman in front of him who was as beautiful as the Virgin Mary, saying such teasing words, Yang Cheng's heart beat faster. He quickly looked up at the dark sky and said, "It's probably going to rain soon. Go upstairs and sleep." Just as he was about to turn around, he was pulled back by Kristen. The woman asked with a smile, "Don't be in a hurry to run. Let me ask you, I just happen to be resting tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. How about I go out with you? No matter what, I have to do my best as a host." Being asked like this, Yang Chung suddenly thought of something and hurriedly asked, "What's the date today?" Kristen was stunned. "So you really have sequelae from being struck by lightning. It's already past midnight, so it's the 6th. Yang Chung slapped his forehead and said hatefully, "Damn it, almost delayed things. No, I have to book a plane ticket immediately and return home at dawn." Chapter 767. Kristen frowned and said unhappily, "Do you have to avoid me like this? Just say it if you don't want me to accompany you." "No," Yang Chung explained with a bitter smile. "It's because the 7th is the National College entrance examination in Huaxia. That Jinxiu from my family is going to take the exam. I was the one who brought her back when she was taking the exam. How can I be traveling abroad at such a critical moment? I had to cheer her on outside the exam. Ruashi would definitely start a cold war with me if that girl held a grudge against me and flunked the exam. A chain reaction is no joke." Kristen looked at him strangely. "It seems like you've really become a family man. Not only do you have to worry about your sister's exam day, but you also have to be careful not to make your wife and sister angry. If those people from Takamagara and Blue Storm knew that they died in the hands of a guy like you, they would probably die from anger even if they didn't die." Yang Chung touched his face and said unnaturally, "Is this a compliment for taking care of my family or saying that I'm a coward who's afraid of my wife? Think about the worst." Kristen snorted. Yang Cheng's mouth twitched. He was speechless. "All right, did you book a plane ticket? Why don't you just teleport back?" Kristen asked in confusion. Yang Chung scratched the back of his head, not daring to face the woman. Shan Shan smiled. "I'm just worried that if I use too much power, I'll attract a heavenly tribulation again. I don't have to use my power. It's better for me to be an ordinary office worker." Kristen didn't even bother to look at him this time. "All right, I'll get someone to prepare the plane ticket and passport for you. You should leave now. My head hurts when I see you now." Yang Chun felt a little wronged as he mumbled a few times. He thought to himself, even if the lightning strikes, it won't hit you. Of course you're relaxed. However, after thinking about it for a while, he still eagerly ran back upstairs, waiting for the sun to rise before heading back to Zhonghai. Only Christine was left in the howling night wind. She stood alone in the courtyard, looking up at the rain clouds drifting in the sky, and sighed faintly. On the other side of the ocean, it was a different scene. Huaxia, Zhonghai. Lin Ruashi returned home at noon and busied herself in the kitchen for a long time before she and Mother Wang finished cooking a table of sumptuous dishes. As the main character of tomorrow's college entrance examination, Jinxiu blushed as she sat on a chair. She looked at the chicken, duck, and fish that filled her eyes, feeling embarrassed. Jinxiu, why are you in a daze? Hurry up and eat while it's hot. This steamed fish and braised pig trotters are good for your brain. Eat more. Guo Shuahua, who was standing at the side, saw Jinxiu's bashfulness, so she smiled and picked some food for Jinxiu. Ever since Jinxiu moved into the house, she had been nourished, and her skin had become fair and supple. Because she had Korean blood in her veins, even though she was young, she was born with a little charm. She had an oval face, a high-nose bridge, and pink lips. She was much more pleasing to the eyes than other girls of her age. This was also one of the main reasons why Guo Shuahua and Mother Wang liked this girl so much. Although they didn't judge people by their appearance, a beautiful girl would always be especially lovable. Jinxiu shyly looked at Lin Ruoshi, who was silently scooping rice. She said softly, I feel very sorry for Sister Ruoshi. Because of me, everyone has been so busy preparing so much for me. Even Sister Ruoshi specially came home from work to cook for me. Silly child, your Sister Ruoshi only did this because she was happy. If you don't eat more, you'll make us unhappy. Guo Shuahua reached out and pinched Jinxiu's little face. Lin Ruoshi heard her mother-in-law and Jinxiu talking about her. She picked up a chicken wing with her chopsticks and gave it to Jinxiu. Let's eat. Jinxiu nodded, smiled sweetly, and started stuffing rice in her mouth. The four women in the house ate happily, but there was something missing from the past. Halfway through the meal, Mother Wang couldn't help but ask, Miss, when is young master coming back? Jinxiu will be taking her college entrance examination tomorrow. Can't he come back? Hearing about Yang Cheng, Guo Shuahua also frowned. This child, why did he suddenly go to America? He doesn't know how to rest when he has a home, and he didn't even inform us when he went out. I have to talk to him when he comes back. Lin Ruoshi ate her food and paused for a moment. She said, because in America, Kristen's house phone can only be dialed out, not received. Also, he didn't bring his phone, so there's no way to contact him. I'm afraid I can't make it back in time. Hearing this, Jinxiu's big eyes revealed a trace of disappointment, but she didn't say anything. But how could the three adults not feel it? After all, it was Yang Cheng who brought Jinxiu home, and it was Yang Cheng who made arrangements for her to go back to school. Even if they quarreled and quarreled, everyone could see that even though Jinxiu called Lin Ruoshi big sister so intimately, she wasn't as close to Yang Cheng as she was to Yang Cheng. For Jinxiu, who didn't have parents, perhaps Yang Cheng's position in her heart was far more important than she imagined. When she stepped into the examination hall, Yang Cheng was far away in America. For a girl, it was always a sad thing. After a while, Lin Ruoshi suddenly said, Jinxiu, I won't go to work tomorrow. I'll send you to the examination hall, okay? Hearing this, Jinxiu hurriedly shook her head. No way, no way. Big Sister Ruoshi, I'm already very sorry that you purposely got off work early today to cook for me. How can I ask you to take time to accompany me to the examination hall tomorrow? Lin Ruoshi acted as if she didn't hear what Jinxiu said. She nodded with certainty and murmured, then it's settled. I'll wake up to make breakfast tomorrow. After breakfast, we'll go to the examination hall together. I'll pick you up after the examination. Jinxiu's eyes were filled with emotions. She pursed her lips, but couldn't say anything. On the other hand, the two elders, Guo Shuahua and Mother Wang, looked at each other and shook their heads with a smile. At the same time, in a secret mountain research base in the mountains outside of Beijing, in the underground laboratory that was sealed with alloy, bright lights illuminated every inch of every corner. There were countless transparent glass instruments. Some of them were empty, while some were filled with strange, bright, colored liquids. In the middle of the laboratory, there was a white operating table. It seemed to be the instruments used to dissect some large specimens. At this moment, the corpse of a middle-aged woman that seemed to be dead was lying flat on the table. Her face was green, and her body was cold. It was Luo Suishan, who was forced to drink the poison by Ning Guangyao. And a tall man with long hair and a sloppy white coat was looking at the corpse with a strange look in his eyes. It seemed like he was thinking about something very interesting. Young master, This woman is already dead. Is it really necessary to go through so much trouble to transport the corpse here? A man who was also wearing a white isolation suit, standing behind the man in the white coat, said, with a puzzled look on his face, if Luo Tsueshan was still alive and awake, she would definitely realize that this man was one of the two men in the white coat who gave her the medicine. This young master was, of course, Yin Buin. Yin Buin's legs that were broken by the woman had miraculously recovered in such a short period of time. Yin Buin sneered and said, "Who told you that this woman is already dead?" The man was stunned. Could it be that young master can save her? But her heart has stopped beating for a few hours. It's obvious that she's brain dead. There's no way to save her. Yin Buin stretched out a finger and stroked Luo Tsueshan's stiff face. He sneered and said, "In my world, even if there's only a brain left, it's not considered dead. Even if there's only one cell left, it's not considered as disappearing. Moreover, this person's body is still very healthy." Hearing these creepy words, the man could not help but shiver. He forced a smile and said, "Young master, you're really not someone we can look up to. I've spoken too much." Yin Buin squinted his eyes and turned around to ask, "Yang Lai, did he go to do what I asked him to do?" The man nodded and said, "Our men have just reported that Yang Lai has already gone to look for Ning Guodong. Now, Ning Guodong still thinks that his mother is dead. He's wiping his tears at the corpse that we've disguised. I reckon that he'll only be able to come here tomorrow. If that's the case, then freeze the corpse first. When Ning Guodong comes tomorrow, I'll let the mother and son reunite." Yin Buin grinned, and his expression was twisted like a devil. The man in the isolation suit stood by the side and shivered. He quickly agreed. Chapter 768. After being scorched by the scorching sun for a day, the drizzling rain fell once again. The needle-sharp and dense rain was like a cow's hair, like the whispers of a woman. Under the cover of the dark clouds, the entire city seemed to be shrouded in a layer of gray gauze. At the international arrival gate of Zhonghai International Airport, a man wearing a short-sleeved white shirt and a pair of light green shorts ran out of the gate without any luggage. He even smiled and asked the passengers in front of him to let him pass. This was naturally Yang Cheng, who had just returned to Zhonghai by plane. Kristen was also very attentive. She used her connections to get a brand-new fake passport and booked a flight that would arrive before 7 a.m. Even so, due to the weather, it was almost 7:30 a.m. when he arrived in Zhonghai. Yang Cheng had to rush home, afraid that if he was late, Jinxia would have to go to the examination hall early. Yang Cheng was now panicking about the lightning, especially during the night in the United States. The thunderclouds refused to disperse and only dispersed in the morning, causing Yang Cheng to be worried for the whole night. Even though he knew that the weather had nothing to do with him, Yang Cheng decided to keep a low profile for the sake of safety. Who knew if the heavens were jealous of his fast cultivation speed and were ready to strike him? He especially remembered that when he was fighting with Poseidon, he had foolishly ignored his instincts and forcibly used all his strength to fight with his life. Now he was very scared. If he was not killed by his opponent in the battle, but by the lightning, wouldn't the woman at home have no umbrella to protect him? Without him as a shield, the people he cared about would be slaughtered by his enemies sooner or later. It would be a fate worse than death. Thinking of this, Yang Cheng steeled his heart. In the future, it would be better to save as much as possible. It would be better not to act recklessly, especially against opponents of a certain level. Even if he could defeat them, it would not be easy. If he used too much of his cultivation, another lightning tribulation would come, and he would not even have a place to cry. This was also the reason why Yang Cheng himself was ignorant about cultivation. If he had a master who could give him some pointers, he would have been able to tell him that the heavenly tribulation was not something that could be casually struck. If it weren't for the fact that the strength of Yang Cheng's true inner force and the fact that he was on the verge of a breakthrough, the heavenly tribulation wouldn't have sensed it. Now, since the first heavenly thunder of Tai Ching had passed, the second heavenly thunder of Shangqing was not far away. With Yang Cheng's cultivation speed, it would not be easy for him to encounter the second and third thunder tribulations in his life without any great opportunities. Of course, Yang Cheng practiced this almost unique cultivation method, and in a world where powerful cultivators were scarce, there was no one who could tell Yang Cheng this. This also caused Yang Cheng to confusedly scare himself. When he arrived at the taxi queue at the airport gate, Yang Cheng rushed to a taxi and quickly drove home after walking across the wet ground. Along the way, Yang Cheng looked at the time from time to time, but the traffic on the road was crowded early in the morning. It could be seen that the impact of the college entrance examination had spread to the whole of Zhonghai City. By the time he reached home, it was already past 8 o'clock. Yang Cheng did not have any Huaxia dollars with him, so he asked the driver to stop at the door and ran home. Just then, Guo Shuihua came down from upstairs, and Mother Wang was washing in the kitchen. Guo Shuihua saw her son, and her face was full of joy. "Ah, you little boy, why did you suddenly come home so early in the morning? We have already prepared breakfast." Yang Cheng did not care about eating. "Mom, did Jinxiu go to the exam?" Guo Shuihua rolled her eyes at him. "Don't mention it. I thought you forgot about that girl. Just now, Ruoxi personally drove her to school for the exam, and you came back late." Yang Cheng smacked his forehead, and he was depressed. "Mom, the taxi driver is still waiting for me outside. Go pay for me. I will go upstairs to get my phone. At least I have to make a phone call." At this time, Mother Wang came out of the kitchen with rubber gloves, and she was surprised. "Young master, you just came back. Sai, why didn't you call in advance?" Jinxiu was pouting the whole night last night. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly. He could imagine how disappointed Jinxiu was. After all, he was the one who brought her back to school to sprint for the college entrance examination, but he was not by her side at the critical moment. He didn't say anything else and hurriedly ran upstairs. Guo Shuihua shook her head and sighed. This child, she didn't even greet her elders when she came home, and the moment she opened her mouth, she asked for money to pay for the taxi fare. Although her words were full of displeasure, her tone was quite doting. For Guo Shuihua, Yang Cheng took more from her, and it made her feel relieved as a mother who was not responsible when she was young. After returning to his room, Yang Cheng took out his phone, only to find that it was out of battery. After quickly connecting the power, Yang Cheng turned on the phone. He really did not pay attention to Lin Ruoxi's number, so he could only look for it from his contact list. But as soon as he turned on the phone, Yang Cheng was dumbfounded to see dozens of missed calls, all from Mo Qianyi. Looking at the date, he realized that the calls were from the night he went to the Pacific Ocean. That day, he went out because of an unexpected situation, and because he was upset, he did not speak much. He did not expect to encounter so many things, and he even stayed in the United States for 2 days. Since Mo Qianyi called him so many times, she must have something urgent to talk to him, but she did not show any signs of wanting to say anything that night, which made Yang Cheng feel a little strange. However, because of Ma Guifeng's words, he was confused about Mo Qianyi's feelings, but now he did not think too much about it. After the thunder tribulation, some changes in his state of mind made Yang Cheng not think too much about it. Since there were some difficulties between the two of them, he would find a way to solve it. Restricting each other's true feelings and causing a woman to be sad was not something a man should do. Letting down a wife was better than letting down a group of lovers. Even Yang Cheng himself felt that this idea was shameless, but he was not an honest person to begin with. In the future, he would just have to be obedient at home. It seemed that after cheering for Jinxiu in the college entrance examination, he had to go and see Ma Guifeng again. No matter what she said, she was definitely going to be his mother-in-law. After thinking about it, Yang Cheng found Lin Ruoxi's phone number and immediately called her. Even if he cheered her on over the phone, it was better than saying nothing. The phone rang for a long time before it was connected. Just when Yang Cheng was about to speak, there was a commotion on the other end of the line. "What do you want? Do you want to go back on your words or something? Get lost. Do you believe that I will beat you up?" Yang Cheng frowned, having a bad feeling, and asked loudly, "Ruoxi? Ruoxi? What happened?" On the other end of the line, Lin Ruoxi didn't seem to be able to speak. After a while of confusion, she panted and said, "Why did you come back so late? I was sending Jinxiu to the exam hall, and something happened." The helplessness and anxiety in her voice was something that Lin Ruoshi would never show on a normal day. It was obvious how bad the situation was. What happened? Speak clearly, Yang Chung asked worriedly. I bumped into someone at the intersection. They were the ones who broke the traffic rules, but they wanted me to pay immediately. I didn't bring any checkbook today, and they said that cash wasn't enough, but they refused to let me go. Lin Ruoshi was so anxious that she almost cried. She wasn't afraid of the open and hidden attacks in the business world, but how could a rich young lady like her handle the gangsters in society? On the contrary, Jinxiu had been in society for a while, so she rushed to protect her sister first. You should come quickly. Jinxiu is arguing with the people over there. If you continue to waste time, you won't be able to finish the exam. Yang Cheng's mind was about to explode. There were really all sorts of things happening in this world. When he thought of Lin Ruoshi and Jinxiu arguing with a group of men on the street, his heart was set ablaze. After asking for the specific location of the intersection, he threw his phone away, turned around, and ran downstairs. Guo Xiuhua, who had just paid the driver, saw Yang Cheng coming downstairs. She thought that he was going to eat breakfast, but before she could ask, Yang Cheng ran out like a gust of wind. Guo Xiuhua stood there in a daze, not understanding what was going on. Yang Cheng took his BMW. Just as he was about to drive out, he suddenly saw two women walking out from the door of the house next door. He bumped into them. The mature woman, Ma Guifeng, who was wearing a plain floral dress, was talking intimately with Mo Qianni, who was wearing a black tailored uniform, who was about to go to work. When they saw the white BMW driving out, they both looked over in surprise. When Yang Cheng saw the mother and daughter, he wanted to go up and greet them. He wanted to ask Mo Qianni why she called that day. He also wanted to tell Ma Guifeng that her idea of forcefully demolishing wouldn't work. But at this time, the problem on Lin Ruoshi and Jinxiu's side was obviously more serious. If the exam was delayed, if the two women were bullied, then it would be a big deal. Yang Cheng didn't dare to dawdle. So, Yang Cheng didn't stop. He just sat in the car and waved at the mother and daughter with a smile as a greeting. Then, he stepped on the gas and drove in the direction of the school. Mo Qianni, who had just seen Yang Cheng, was happy. She thought that Yang Cheng was deliberately hiding, but since he came back so soon, there shouldn't be such a thing. In the end, without waiting for Mo Qianni to come forward and say a word, Yang Cheng waved his hand casually and drove away quickly. The speed of the car was as if he was trying to hide as fast as possible. Chapter 769. Mo Qianni's footsteps were glued to the spot. Her beautiful face from the beginning had a joyful smile to gradually fading. Her eyes changed from hope to astonishment and finally to despondency. The sky was still drizzling, and when it landed on her fair and pretty face, it was cool and wet. Standing by the side of the road, Mo Qianni felt as if her heart had suddenly fallen into an ice cave. Why did he run away in a hurry? Does he really not want to have anything to do with me? The woman did not want to believe that all of this was true, but everything that had happened these past few days seemed to be mocking her. Ma Guifeng was originally cursing in her heart. Yang Cheng had not been around these few days. Although her daughter was very sad, but at least they could gradually cut off their relationship. If they suddenly met again, their relationship might have been rekindled. But she did not expect that Yang Cheng did not even roll down the car window and directly waved his hand and left. He did not have any intention of chatting at all. Although she was a little uncomfortable with Yang Cheng's attitude, Ma Guifeng was still very satisfied with this situation. In this way, her daughter should also wake up. Walking to Mo Qianni's side, Ma Guifeng sighed with pity. She reached out and patted her daughter's shoulder, then hugged her and said softly, "Silly child, don't you understand? You could get together before because you did not see the reality clearly. Now, Yang Cheng listened to my words, and he has already seen the impossibility between the two of you. You're not like other big families, young ladies. We're just a small family. We live by the weather. How can we do such a blatant and ridiculous thing? You will suffer because of Yang Cheng, and Yang Cheng will be troubled because of you. Listen to Mom. When it's time to let go, let go." Mo Qianni's eyes were red, and she turned her head, unwilling to face her mother. She clenched her bag tightly and said, "Even if I have to let go, I have to say it clearly in front of him. Since he's avoiding me, I'll have to face him and talk it out with him face to face." After that, Imo Chinny took out her phone from her bag and dialed Yang Cheng's number. But Yang Cheng's phone was still charging in the room, so naturally he could not answer the phone. After no one answered for a while, Imo Chinny weakly hung up the phone, and her bright eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of lifeless gray. Ma Guifeng saw it, and her heart felt like it was cut by a knife. She said lovingly, "Girl, what are you thinking? Don't scare Mom." Imo Chinny bit her lips and said in a clear voice, "Mom, go back to the house. I'll stand at the door. Today I must wait for him to come back and ask him clearly. I don't believe that he'll continue to hide from me." "You," Ma Guifeng said anxiously. "Are you crazy? Why aren't you going to work? Why are you just standing there and waiting for someone? It's raining. No matter how light the rain is, it's still water. If you stand here and wait for him, who knows when he'll come back? What if you get wet and fall sick?" "Mom!" Imo Chinny suddenly burst into tears and screamed. She choked with sobs as she looked at her mother. "I beg you, please, don't worry about me. Even if you wanted to give up, let me make it clear before I give up. Let me be alone. Let me solve the problem with him." Tears and rainwater mixed together on her flower-like face and dripped onto the ground. The woman's shoulders trembled as she stood under the gloomy sky. Her dark figure was so helpless and downtrodden. Ma Guifeng was moved as she looked at her daughter, who had shouted at her. She clenched her teeth and took 2 steps back. She said in a cold voice, "Fine, since you said so, then I'll be ruthless and let you young people solve this problem yourselves. Since you want to wait here in the rain for him, then I have nothing to say. But I'm telling you, don't get your hopes up. The more capable a man is, the less he'll care about a woman." After saying that, Ma Guifeng didn't say anything else. She turned around and went back into the house. These days, because of old Zhou's wife, she didn't go to work at Annie Xiang's place. Even if she didn't mind, it would affect Annie Xiang's business, so she could only cook and clean for Imo Chinny and Xiang Wei at home. This was nothing to Ma Guifeng, who was almost 50 years old. The hardships of life had taught her to cherish things. As long as her daughter could get rid of this ill-fated relationship, she would be happy to do anything. On the other hand, Yang Chun stepped hard on the accelerator and overtook other cars on the road like a racer. In less than 10 minutes, he finally arrived at the location Lin Ruoshi mentioned on the phone. At a fork in the road, the red Bentley was parked by the side of the road, surrounded by a crowd of onlookers pointing at it. Yang Chun parked the car at a random spot and dashed inside. As soon as he entered the crowd, he saw a petite figure suddenly raise her leg and kick a short, fat man in the stomach. Jinxiu. The girl in clean clothes was Jinxiu, who looked sullen. Behind Jinxiu was an anxious Lin Ruoshi, who was biting her lip in fright. "Brother Yang." Jinxiu heard Yang Cheng's voice and turned around to call out in surprise. Seeing Yang Cheng appear, Lin Ruoshi looked relieved. She subconsciously ran to Yang Cheng's side, happy but also a little angry. She complained in a low voice, "Why did you come back so late?" Yang Cheng smiled embarrassedly. "It's better than not being able to come back at this time. How is it? Now you know the importance of me as the head of the family, right?" Lin Ruoshi rolled her eyes at him. "What a great head of the family. Since you're here, I'll leave this place to you. I'll take Jinxiu to the examination room, or else it'll be too late." "Want to leave?" "Not so easy." The short and fat man who had been kicked fell to the ground. Immediately, 2 rough-looking men helped him up and walked forward even more fiercely. The 3 of them blocked the side of the car door, looking like they wouldn't let go. Jinxiu yelled angrily, "You guys purposely bumped into us. Giving you 2,000 yuan is already a fair deal. Do you really think we're afraid?" Yang Cheng looked at the scene. On the ground, there was an electric bicycle with a slightly twisted head, and the back door of Lin Ruoshi's Bentley had a deep dent. From the looks of it, it should be that when Lin Ruoshi was driving at a slow speed, the 3 guys who were already prepared had bumped into Lin Ruoshi's car. This kind of thing, no matter how you look at it, was an intentional evil act. It was the most basic business of blackmailing. And on this day, Everyone was sending their children to the college entrance examination, and everyone was in a hurry. Of course, this kind of business was the easiest to succeed. In this society, when a rich person driving a car and a poor person riding a bicycle collided, the first thing to consider was not the legal responsibility, but the rich person would always pay compensation first as a way to end things. This was the current situation of society. Public opinion and people's hearts were often full of sympathy, and they wouldn't look at the truth of the matter. No one would advertise on the internet how much money some rich boss had been cheated out of innocently. There would only be people who would advertise that some boss had injured or killed someone, but they would just casually use money to make up for it. When Yang Chun was selling mutton skewers, he would often see the more affluent madams buying vegetables, and the hawkers would purposely raise the price. Once they tried to bargain, they would immediately scold the madams for bullying the honest people. But when ordinary working-class people bought vegetables, the hawkers would even take the initiative to give half a caddy of vegetables. This kind of thing was not strange. The short and fat man's face was red as he said loudly, "Everyone, be the judge. My electric bicycle was misaligned, and I was lucky that I hit the back door. If I hit the front of the car, I would have been run over on the spot. Not only did these two women not pay for my medical expenses, but they also wanted to kick me. Is there any justice in this world?" The surrounding crowd actually didn't have much of a reaction. Everyone understood what was going on. Even if they knew that Lin Ruashi wasn't in the wrong, they wouldn't say it out loud, lest others think that they were fawning on the rich. Jinxiu's face was filled with anger. Lin Ruashi had woken up early to prepare breakfast for her, and even sent her to the examination hall. Jinxiu was already feeling very guilty about it. Now that she had encountered such a situation, she was filled with grievances. She hated the three of them to the core. The ruthlessness she had when she was a delinquent girl erupted. She wanted to go up and beat up the short and fat man again. Yang Chung hurriedly pulled her back and said sternly, "Don't get involved. Girls don't fight. Brother Yang, I'll handle this. You and your sister take my car to the examination hall. I'll settle them, or else it'll be too late." Jinxiu pouted, but still nodded obediently. As Yang Chung spoke, he handed the car keys to Lin Ruashi. "Wife, take this girl to the examination hall first. I'll drive there to meet you later. Let's have lunch together, and then accompany her to the examination hall in the afternoon." "Okay, then be careful." Lin Ruashi understood and gave her Bentley keys to Yang Chung. Although she felt that it was a little unnecessary, she couldn't help but say it. She didn't know when, but she had unknowingly gotten used to this title and this role. Yang Chung pinched Jinxiu's face again. "I especially rushed back this morning to refuel for you. I don't expect you to be very proud, but don't be too ridiculous. You can guess when you can't think of anything, but don't throw the dice and have a proper attitude." Jinxiu stuck out her tongue. "Brother Yang told me about the university entrance exam, but it's not convincing at all." Yang Chung glared at the girl, while Lin Ruashi hurriedly pulled Jinxiu away from the scene. The three partners saw that the woman had left, leaving behind an ordinary-looking man. He patted the red Bentley and said proudly, "What? You're staying to pay for your woman? I'll say it, just for the car you're driving. It can't be less than 20,000. Yang Chung walked up to the man and smiled. "You really want money? Are you saying it's fake?" "Of course. I don't have Xia dollars on me, but I have a lot of other currencies. Do you guys want some?" Yang Chung asked, a little embarrassed. The three of them looked at each other and said, "Don't try to cheat us, kid. We have a big brother in the underworld to protect us. If you dare to give us fake money, we'll go back and get our boss to kill you. Also, we only accept US dollars and euros. Don't think we're fools. If you dare to give us 20,000 Japanese dollars, we don't want it." Yang Chung looked surprised. "You guys even know this, Sai, but fortunately I didn't want to give you Japanese yen." "What's that?" Yang Cheng's face became indifferent. "Ghost money." "Ghost money?" The short and fat man was stunned and didn't react. One of his accomplices shouted, "Hey, fatty, this guy said he's giving us dead people money." Chapter 770. At this moment, the three of them were enraged. They shouted and rushed forward to grab Yang Chung and beat him to death. They didn't dare to use force against the women, but it was a different story for the men. But Yangcheng wouldn't lower himself to their level. Even if he didn't use his cultivation, his physical strength was much stronger than before after going through the Thunder Tribulation. Seeing that the three of them were approaching, Yangcheng took a step forward and grabbed them in a dazzling manner. The three of them were flung 3 times in a row as if they were stones, drawing 3 parabolas and landing directly in a moving garbage truck by the side of the road. To deal with these kinds of gangsters, reasoning was just asking for trouble. Violence was the only way to solve the problem, and there would be no trouble at all. The barefoot was not afraid of wearing shoes. The most primitive method was the most effective. When the surrounding crowd saw Yangcheng's strength, they all subconsciously made a large circle and whispered to each other about whether he was a martial artist or not. Yangcheng didn't care about those people. He walked to the garbage truck and grabbed the 3 gangsters with one hand, throwing them on the ground. Their hair was disheveled and dirty, and their bodies stinked. The 3 of them were scared out of their wits. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Yangcheng, begging for mercy. Yangcheng squatted down and reached out to the short and fat man. "Hey, don't play dumb. Where's the money you extorted?" The short and fat man's face was trembling, but he didn't dare to play rough with this powerful guy. He could only slowly reach into his trouser pocket and pull out a stack of bills. Other than the 20 or so red $100 bills, there were also some miscellaneous $10, $20, and green-colored bills. Seeing the man counting, Yangcheng didn't say anything and snatched all the money. "Hey, big brother, the rest of the money is my own," the short and fat man said anxiously. Yangcheng's face darkened. He glared at him and said, "What? You're allowed to extort money, but I'm not allowed to openly rob money? It's all against the law, so why can't I break it? Let me tell you, my wife's car door is dented, and it will cost at least tens of thousands to fix. Taking a few hundred yuan from you is already fair to you. Next time you see her, send her to the police station." After saying that, she ignored the 3 guys who wanted to cry but had no tears. She swaggered out of the crowd, got into Lin Ruoshi's Bentley, and continued to drive to school. The crowd of onlookers was dumbfounded. Who was the one extorting who? The short and fat man was burning with anger. He stared at the Bentley's license plate and memorized the number. He cursed in a low voice, his eyes full of unwillingness to give up. Yangcheng didn't take this episode too seriously. When he rushed out of the school as fast as he could, he saw Lin Ruoshi walking back to the parking lot from the school gate. Although the sky was gray and drizzling, and there were many adults sending their children off outside the school gate, it didn't affect the woman's dazzling appearance in this messy scene. Inside the Korean-style cotton cardigan was a grass-green round-neck dress, paired with a white chiffon skirt. Her hair was fluttering, and her simple outfit was like an orchid blooming in the rain. Walking across the wet concrete floor, Lin Ruoshi easily found Yangcheng. When she walked to the car door, Yangcheng was still looking at her, lost in thought. This made Lin Ruoshi a little happy, but at the same time, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bending down, Lin Ruoshi knocked on the car window. Only then did Yangcheng react. He smiled as he rolled down the window and said, "Ruoshi, darling, it's been hard on you. Do you want me to send your car to the repair shop? You're going to wait for Jinxiu here, right?" Lin Ruoshi pursed her lips and smiled as she shook her head. "I'll send someone over to repair it. You're the director of the company. Are you going to do it yourself? Just stop here. You can't say that. This is my wife's car. How can it be the same?" Yangcheng hurriedly flattered. Lin Ruoshi glanced at him and said softly, "All right, it's not like I don't know what kind of person you are. You woke up early in the morning and suddenly ran to America. Why are you still acting obedient? Jinxiu's exam will end at 11:30. I know a good tea house nearby, so let's go sit there and wait." Although this man had inexplicably gone to America for a few days, and she originally had a lot of resentment in her heart, but the scene of him rushing to the scene to take on all the troublesome matters as soon as he got home made Lin Ruoshi quickly put down those small resentments in her heart. It felt good to have a backbone. No matter how bad this guy was, in the eyes of a woman, a responsible man was still very likable. As a result, Lin Ruoshi's tone couldn't help but become gentler. In addition, She had already decided to properly manage her marriage with Yang Cheng, so she naturally invited him to drink tea while he was free. Yang Cheng didn't expect Lin Ruoshi to take the initiative to invite him to spend some time with her. But thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange for a husband and wife to have a meal and drink tea together. On the contrary, he was the one who always thought of their relationship as before and made a fuss out of nothing. Moreover, Lin Ruoshi usually refused to slack off at work. It was only this time that Jinxiu took a break for her college entrance examination. It was a rare opportunity. So he nodded and turned off the car, intending to get out. But just as he was about to open the door, his gaze froze. He looked out the car window and gulped. Lin Ruoshi was puzzled. What was wrong with this man? Why was he so surprised when she asked him to drink tea with her? But she gradually realized that something was wrong. Lin Ruoshi followed Yang Cheng's gaze and looked. It was actually her own chest. In an instant, her elegant face seemed to be dyed with a layer of rouge. She glared at him and said, "Don't embarrass yourself. Have you seen enough?" As Lin Ruoshi was wearing a rather wide, tight-fitting, round-neck dress, she accidentally bent over and revealed a tight ravine on her chest. In the snow-white skin, the shadow was dazzling. Actually, Lin Ruoshi's figure could completely make her an outstanding print model. It was just that because of her identity, her clothes were usually not too revealing. Moreover, it was already very eye-catching, so she tried not to dress too ostentatiously. Therefore, it was rare for Yang Cheng to see a woman's strong assets so directly, and his eyes couldn't help but stare blankly. After being exposed, Yang Cheng smiled foolishly and pretended that nothing had happened. After getting out of the car, he didn't care whether Lin Ruoshi was embarrassed or not. He grabbed the woman's hand and walked toward the BMW. This action naturally caused many men to feel jealousy in their hearts. Because the people in charge of Lin Ruoshi's luxury cars had spare keys, they didn't have to wait here. After the two of them got into the car, they went to the tea house according to Lin Ruoshi's instructions. Naturally, they went to the place where Lin Ruoshi and Tang Wan had tea together. Last time when the two women fought, Lin Ruoshi left without a good drink. She felt that the tea and pastries there were not bad and felt a little regretful, so she took this opportunity to go again. As they drove, Yang Cheng asked curiously, "Why didn't you ask me why I suddenly went to the United States for 2 days?" Lin Ruoshi looked at the gloomy sky and said calmly, "I don't want to know." "Why?" Yang Cheng was even more puzzled. After a moment of silence, Lin Ruoshi said, "If you're with a woman, it's better to be in a state of ignorance than to know that you're upset." Yang Cheng looked quite embarrassed. Xiao Qi-Qing's beautiful figure appeared in his mind, but he pretended to be calm and said, "Really? How is that possible? Ruoshi, don't you see how infatuated and affectionate I am when I look at you? If I wasn't helping Kristen deal with something, I couldn't wait to come back to see you. Why would I be fooling around with other women?" Lin Ruoshi glanced at him and snorted. Yang Cheng was worried. Did she believe him or not? As they chatted, the rain outside became heavier again. The two of them also came to the tea house and ordered a few pastries and a pot of taiguanin. They found a table on the second floor and sat opposite each other. Outside the tea house, the rain slid down from the eaves like a curtain of beads. Listening to the moving sounds and watching the traffic, they didn't speak for a long time. After a while, Lin Ruoshi retracted her gaze from the rain and looked at the man sitting opposite her. Yang Cheng was eating a piece of mung bean cake. He ate very quietly. Unknowingly, more than half of the food on the table was gone. After all, he was purely sleeping on the plane and didn't have breakfast when he got home. This was a replacement for breakfast. "Why aren't you talking?" Lin Ruoshi asked softly. Yang Cheng blinked his eyes in confusion and smiled. "This scenery is not bad. Talking will break this feeling." Lin Ruoshi looked a little doubtful. "You're the kind of person who likes silence. I thought you'd be chattering nonstop." Yang Cheng stuffed all the pastries in his hand into his mouth and drank a mouthful of tea. After eating, he sighed and said, "If I didn't meet you, I might still be selling mutton skewers in the market, living the life of a peddler, and most bragging to a few vegetable sellers every day." I won't get involved in anything else. I didn't come back to the country for the liveliness, so why wouldn't I like silence? Lin Ruashi's moist eyes flashed with a few thoughts, and then she softly replied with an N. What N? Wife, why are you acting so weird? Yang Chung asked in confusion. Lin Ruashi shook her head. I'm just thinking that I still don't know you well enough. I always felt that you were a person who would constantly cause trouble, but now it seems that's not the case. Yang Chung smiled. You've always misunderstood me. If it wasn't for others taking the initiative to provoke me, I wouldn't have the time to cause trouble. Lin Ruashi looked at the man's rather complacent look, and a helpless smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Perhaps she had indeed misunderstood him in many ways. Right at this moment, two uniformed policemen suddenly walked up the stairs. They looked left and right and immediately walked towards Yang Cheng's position. The two policemen stood by the table, and one of the middle-aged policemen said, It's Miss Lin and Mr. Yang, right? Lin Ruashi frowned slightly. What's the matter? The middle-aged policeman nodded and said, We received a report that after Miss Lin had a conflict with someone near the intersection of Qinghe, Mr. Yang is suspected of beating up 3 migrant workers in public and extorting more than 2,400 Huaxia dollars. We are now in violation of the Public Security Administration Punishment Act. We hope that Mr. Yang and Miss Lin will return to the police station to cooperate with the investigation. 2,400? Lin Ruashi glanced at Yang Chung strangely. Officer, those two extorted 2,000 from me. How could it be 2,400? Before she could finish, Lin Ruashi suddenly thought of something. Her eyes suddenly emitted a flame. She glared at Yang Chung and said through gritted teeth, You stole their money too? Yang Cheng's expression was extremely stiff. He said softly, Isn't this? I want to help you vent your anger. Lin Ruashi was about to faint. She looked at the man resentfully and gritted her teeth. I was wrong just now. Actually, I've always known you very well. I know you very well. Chapter 771. At this moment, Yang Chun lowered his head. He was so embarrassed that he didn't know what to say. Just now, he pretended to be profound and restrained. Was there anything more embarrassing than this turn of events? They actually dared to call the police. F***CK. No one was to be trifled with these days. Even hooligans knew to call the police to protect them. But thinking about it carefully, they were poor and would only be detained for a few days at most. Plus, they would be provided with food and water. It would be strange if they did not call the police. The middle-aged police officer said solemnly, Since the two of you have nothing to say, please go downstairs and get in the car. The 3 people who called the police are already waiting at the police station for a confrontation. An idea flashed through Yang Cheng's mind. He smiled and said to the police officer, Bro, are you the subordinates of Bureau Chief Kai? I'm very familiar with your Bureau Chief Kai. The 2 police officers looked at each other. The middle-aged police officer said, There are many people who know our Bureau Chief's surname Kai. If everyone said the same thing, wouldn't we not have to arrest them? Yang Chung was speechless. He could not possibly say that he was Choi Yun's man, right? Wouldn't he be killed by Lin Ruashi's gaze on the spot? Even so, Lin Ruashi's face turned cold. She stood up and said, Don't embarrass yourself. It's not like you did anything serious. Just go and make it clear. Yang Chung saw that the situation was not good and immediately smiled flatteringly. I'll listen to my dear wife. After following the 2 police officers into the car, they arrived at the police station. Lin Ruashi only made a phone call to Lawyer Zhang from the law firm and did not say anything else. Yang Chung looked at Lin Ruashi, whose face was as cold as ice. He was really muddle-headed. Lin Ruashi did not think of calling the police when she encountered that troublesome matter previously. She was deliberately avoiding any interaction with Choi Yun. Jiang Shan's cheap mother-in-law had called to greet Lin Ruashi, and now it was not easy for Lin Ruashi to face Choi Yun calmly like before. Now that the 2 of them came to the police station together, it would be hard not to bump into each other. Speaking of which, Choi Yun should have returned to Zhonghai after the Labor Day holiday. However, there were a lot of things to deal with at Yulei, and he had a hard time meeting her. Although he missed her, it was not the right time to meet her. Yang Chung entered the police station with ease, but with Lin Ruashi by his side this time, it was like walking on thin ice. Due to the incident with Lu Min, Yang Chun killed the bureau chief with the surname Lu on the spot, and many police officers opened fire on the spot, causing a series of riots. After that incident, the Security Bureau had secretly transferred the police here. Therefore, when these new faces saw Yang Chung, it did not cause any special situation. In the big office, the three gangsters were already complaining to the police with honest faces. When they saw Yang Chung and Lin Ruashi appear, the three of them looked excited. Police notice you have to help us three brothers. It's not easy for us to come to Zhonghai to work and earn some money. This man and woman are both rich, but they didn't even let go of our little money. They even beat us up and threw us into the garbage truck. They're not letting us ordinary people live. Their words were quite sympathetic. After all, there was a lot of news about migrant workers being bullied in society. Subconsciously, they thought that the three of them were the victims. Hearing the words of the three people, Lin Ruashi, who had just sat down, looked angry. Yang Chung, who was next to her, quickly approached and comforted. Ruashi, don't be angry. It's all my fault. I'll admit my mistake, okay? Lin Ruashi looked at him weakly. What can I blame you for? I only blame myself. I have to rely on you to get rid of them. If I could handle it myself, I wouldn't need you to come forward. If you didn't come forward, it wouldn't be like this. I'm only worried that the time to pick up Xinxiu will be delayed. Although she didn't blame Yang Chung felt it was strange. At this time, a policewoman came in front of the two and began to ask, "Are you Miss Lin and Mr. Yang? We found the two of you according to the license plate. Although both of you are famous people, everyone is equal before the law. Please cooperate with us." Lin Ruashi didn't give her a chance to ask questions at all. She said, "My husband and I don't want to answer any questions because we are the innocent victims. As for the specifics, I've already called my lawyer on the way here. Before the lawyer arrives, we'll keep quiet." The policewoman was also a woman in her 30s. When she heard Lin Ruashi's indifferent tone, she thought that she was looking down on her. She snorted and said disdainfully, "Rich people are great. Well, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. You deserve to be caught." The three gangsters also shouted and fanned the flames. For a time, the police officers in the big office looked over. The short and fat man was the most energetic. He grabbed the hand of a policeman and said, "Police comrade, I was robbed of 2,425 yuan by that man. If you don't believe me, you can ask him to take out the money. If it wasn't my money, how could I remember it so clearly?" When the policewoman heard this, she glanced at Yang Chung and said, "Mr. Yang, even if you wait for the lawyer to come, it's not too much to check your belongings." Yang Chung ignored her and turned to ask Lin Ruashi with a cautious look, "Wife, do you think I should show it to her?" This scene fell into everyone's eyes, and they naturally thought that this man was so afraid of his wife that he had to ask for permission for everything. Lin Ruashi was a little uncomfortable being stared at by a group of people. She rolled her eyes at Yang Chung and said, "Do whatever you want. Why are you asking me?" Hee. Yang Chung smiled and said, "Anyway, it doesn't matter to me. I will do whatever you want to do to make you happy." Lin Ruashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This man was deliberately taking advantage of her. He clearly didn't put these police officers in his eyes. At this moment, a man and a woman walked out of the bureau chief's office not far away. The woman had beautiful shoulder-length hair, pink lips, and a bright appearance. She was wearing a police uniform and looked valiant. It was Choi Yun, who had returned to the police station after her vacation. The man who was talking and laughing with her was more than 185 meters tall. He wore a well-ironed, high-class suit and a scarlet tie. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and he looked very handsome. If he were to appear on TV, he would definitely be an idol that attracted millions of people. Originally, he was quite happy to see his woman after nearly a month. However, when he saw that Choi Yun was actually with such an inappropriate man, Yang Chung was immediately filled with displeasure. Regardless of whether the occasion was right or not, Yang Chung suddenly stood up and pointed at the man with his index finger. He shouted loudly, "Choi Yun, who the F*** CK? Is that pretty boy?" This shout echoed throughout the police station's main office. Everyone was stunned and looked at Yang Chung speechlessly. Lin Ruoshi couldn't wait to pretend that she didn't know this guy. She closed her eyes, gritted her teeth, and gripped her white dress tightly. She cursed in her heart, "Stupid Yang Chung, stupid Yang Chung. Marrying you is really my bad luck. If I don't go back and have a Cold War with you for a month, Lin Ruoshi, won't eat glutinous rice balls for a month." After Yang Chung shouted, he realized that Lin Ruoshi was by his side. This didn't seem appropriate, but he wasn't in a hurry to appease his wife. If that man had any evil intentions towards Choi Yun, he couldn't delay any longer. He could even cripple him on the spot and end his family line. As for guessing that Choi Yun was with another man behind his back, Yang Chung wouldn't consider it at all. Choi Yun was a straightforward person who wouldn't change her mind once she set her mind on something. If she could cheat on a man behind his back, then there wouldn't be any loyalty in this world. Choi Yun was pleasantly surprised to see Yang Chung. After she returned to Zhonghai, she didn't have time to meet with Yang Chung because she knew that Yulei was in trouble. She had a lot of cases to deal with, so she quickly walked over and found that Lin Ruoshi was also sitting beside him. Choi Yun immediately felt a little embarrassed from the joy on her face. However, she was lively and cheerful, so she quickly erased the awkwardness and greeted her warmly. "Ruoshi, why are you here? I haven't seen you for a long time. Did something happen?" No matter how reluctant Lin Ruoshi was, she had to open her eyes when she heard Choi Yun talking to her so calmly. She smiled lightly and said, "Everyone is busy, so it's rare to see you. I ran into some trouble today. I was falsely accused." "Yin, are these two your friends?" The tall and handsome man walked up from behind Choi Yun with his hands behind his back. He had an arrogant look on his face. He glanced at Yang Chung with some disdain. Then his gaze fell on Lin Ruoshi. Suddenly, his eyes lit up,